University. I request our Honorable Chancellor to kindly accompany His Excellency the Ambassador of Brazil, the Honorable Consul General of Russia to Calcutta, Honorable Consul General of China to Calcutta, and Ambassador Srinivasan. Please, sir. Since the Honorable Chancellor is with us, I take the opportunity of requesting our Honorable Chancellor to welcome our guests. Honorable Chancellor, sir.
Good morning, all. Welcome to all the delegates, especially Ambassador of Brazil to India, Honorable Consul General of the Russian Federation in Kolkata, and the Consul General of People Republic of China, and the other distinguished guests on the dais and of the dais. So this is the great opportunity to share the relation between the India and the other Brics country. I think the students of the Erasmus University and students from the other university will take the opportunity to know the relation between all the countries. So I think during today you will spend a good time and you will get more important inputs which will help you to assess the relations of the other country to the India, and at the same time it will help you to make the roadmap as a international students. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It now gives me a personal privilege to introduce His Excellency the Ambassador of Brazil to India. Ambassador Kenneth Felix Heisinski. Did I pronounce rightly? Not perhaps. Okay. Is a distinguished Brazilian career diplomat. He is now the Ambassador of Brazil to India and Bhutan. He holds a graduate degree in economics from Rio de Janeiro and this he attained in 1993. In 2013, he presented his thesis, Negotiations on Limitations and Exceptions to Copyright at the World Intellectual Property Organization, Diplomatic Honors, Diplomatic Action and Access to Knowledge, and he was awarded the honors at the 58th Advanced Studies course of Rio Branco Institute. His Excellency the Ambassador has held several positions at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, including Secretary for Europe, Middle East and Africa, and Brics and IPSA Sherpa. His diplomatic assignments abroad have been to the Embassy of Brazil in Washington, Berlin, as well as he was also the member of Brazil's permanent delegation to WTO and economic organizations in Geneva. He has also taken part in several inter-agency groups. His Excellency the Ambassador has also taught offered a course on international negotiation techniques at the Brazilian Diplomatic Academy. We are extremely happy to welcome you, sir, amongst us. I also take this opportunity to introduce the Honorable Russian Consul General to Calcutta, Alexei M. Idamkin. He is a very popular figure amongst the intellectual and the reading public in Calcutta. We had the occasion to interact with him on a number of occasions. He graduated from the Institute of Asian and African Studies at the Moscow State University in 1996, and he fluently speaks English and Urdu, an exceptional qualification indeed. He entered the diplomatic service in 1998, and since then he has held a number of diplomatic posts at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Russia and abroad. Between 2006 and 2010, he served as First Secretary, Embassy of the Russian Federation in Sweden. He also held the post of the First Secretary, Counselor, Embassy of the Russian Federation in India between 2011 and 2014. Between 2014 and 2017, he acted as a counselor at the Second Department of Asia, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, and since March 30, 2017, he had been serving as the Consul General of the Russian Federation in Kolkata of India. Thank you very much, Honorable Consul General of Russia to Calcutta, for being with us today. It also gives me immense pleasure to welcome amongst us the Deputy Consul General Qin Yong of Chinese People's Republic of China to Calcutta. He is also currently the acting Consul General of the People's Republic of China in Calcutta, and we're indeed very, very happy to welcome you. We had the occasion of interacting very closely with your predecessor, and we do hope that this would be also an entry point of closer interaction with you, sir. Thank you very much for being with us today. Could I also welcome amongst us Ambassador Srinivasan, who was former Indian Foreign Secretary. We had the occasion to introduce him yesterday in the sessions. I won't waste time to introduce him again, to reintroduce him. And could I now request Ambassador Srinivasan to kindly preside over the session. Ambassador Srinivasan, please.
Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and to the students here, big hello. Thanks again for coming. I noticed that, well, my thanks also to Professor Suranjan Das, Vice Chancellor, who has put this wonderful program together for yesterday and today. And I think we have to thank him for excellent arrangements, apart from being far-sighted enough to have a seminar on Brics. I notice he doesn't think I'm worth any particular time, as he said earlier today, but that's all right. I've been put properly in my place, but I will say a few words regarding our very distinguished panel. We had a very good discussion, I think, yesterday on Brics, the problems and the various prospects. And it was really a discussion which ranged from highly intellectual and philosophical from Professor Shibashish, and also the practical and material from Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia. I think that that was a very rich discussion, and there were very interesting questions, I have to say, from the audience. And the fact that you've come here in more or less the same numbers as yesterday, I think is a tribute to your interest in the subject, and also the way in which the speakers yesterday had delivered the topic, and your interest in the speakers of today as well. So thank you very much for that. Today promises to be an equally rich discussion. All the original 4 members, you know, it started with 4 and then became 5 as South Africa came into this organization. All the 4 original members are represented on this platform, and I'm sure that we shall have a very engaging discussion. I'd like to add here in parenthesis that we are very disappointed that the South African representative has not come, and despite many appeals from the Vice Chancellor. And we would like you, Madam, who represents the ICWA, to carry to the ICWA our great regret that he and the Acting High Commissioner in Delhi and his staff didn't find it possible to be present. I'd like to add to what the Vice Chancellor said in giving a very warm welcome to His Excellency, Ambassador Nobrega of Brazil. I have the impression that this is his first visit to Calcutta, and I think that he can be reassured that interest in world affairs does not end or begin and end in Delhi. So there are people who have sufficient interest in this topic even outside Delhi, and I hope you will be reassured that there is sufficient interest in Calcutta also in foreign countries, and would perhaps encourage you, sir, to come again and as often as possible. So thank you very much for your presence. And if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Vice-Chancellor, His Excellency's visit here is probably that of the first ambassador visiting the university, which makes it particularly unique and special as well. And my welcome as well, added to the Vice-Chancellors, to the Honorable Mr. Alexei Adamkin. He is the Consul General of Russia, and also the Dean of the Consular Corps, which means that he is the senior-most Consul General of the countries represented in Calcutta. He is a very well-known and respected and well-liked figure in Eastern India, and he represents, of course, the current chairperson of Brics, which gives him particular importance, apart from representing Russia, which is a time-tested and valued friend of India's. My welcome also to Mr. Xin Yong, the acting Consul General of China. In China is India's biggest and certainly most important neighbor, and China's views are always important, especially since they are playing an ever larger role on the world stage. So whatever China has to say on Brics or any other subject will be listened to very eagerly. As representatives of your country in this seminar and in this part of India, please feel free to take as long as you like when you speak, because we have a longish session to fill, and whatever you say will be very enriching to the audience. So may I begin by inviting you, Mr. Ambassador. You're the most senior person on the platform. Would you please come and deliver your speech?
Good morning. First of all, I would like to thank you, a heartfelt thank you, for extending me this invitation to participate in these important discussions in these prestigious institutions. It's indeed an honor to be here. My presentation will be focused on my experience. I'm a practitioner. I am not a professor. I'm a practitioner. I have been. I worked for Brics as a Brazilian sous-chef for some years. So my presentation will at times focus and deal with foreign policy directives, foreign policy approach, Brazilian approach within the context of its foreign policy when it comes to Brics. But also I will talk a little bit about how, from my personal perspective, Brics works, Brics internal dynamics, and why I think that the dynamics, the negotiating dynamics, internal dynamics of Brics has kind of prepared Brics for an expansion, in the sense that it can we can talk about a concrete possibility of incorporating these new members and still keeping the group functional and producing results. So my presentation will sometimes mix what we call, at least in the Brazilian Brazilian Diplomatic Academy, we always learn about the difference between foreign policy and diplomatic practice. It's not the same thing. So I think that I will indulge in blurring these distinctions here in my presentation. So now, my presentation will focus on the process of Brics expansion, because I think that was the idea, right? Starting from a historical perspective, then we'll go on talking about the expansion itself. So, from a historical experience, I will single out two aspects. The first, I will briefly recall the economic and political background against which the group was created. And then I intend to share some thoughts on the development of its internal consensus building dynamic. This seems to be, as I already said, the key factors that have, I think, ensured the consolidation of the group and the important results it achieved. And this led also to making Brics an attractive political coordination platform for emerging and developing countries. As we know, more than 30 countries have expressed an interest in becoming members of the group as of late. So I think this says a lot, of course. If I now focus on the historical perspective, Brics, as you know, emerged in the first decade of the 21st century at a time when the decoupling between the structure and functioning of global governance institutions and the relative power of the countries that dominated them was already clear to the naked eye. This decoupling was already clear. And the need to reform governance institutions had become undeniable, as evidenced by the growing difficulty of the international system in finding solutions to political and strategic conflicts, to economic, social, and environmental challenges, as well as to the then so-called new global threats, such as terrorism, drug trafficking, cybersecurity, and a migratory crisis. At the beginning of this century, we call this the emerging global threats. Now, of course, there are more than emerging global threats these days. Against this background, Brics coined its identity as a group that stood for the reform of global governance institutions so that they would better reflect the new multipolar distribution of power created by the rise, of course, of emerging and developing countries. The emergence of Brics could thus be considered both a reflection of and a catalyst for the changes that were taking place in the international stage throughout the first 2 decades of the 21st century. From the outset, coordination among BRIC countries was especially effective in the financial field, in particular in the IMF, in the World Bank, in the then financial G20, and it culminated, as we know, with the establishment of the new development bank in 2014. I recall that this was the first multilateral bank established since the end of World War II. And it's important to make a distinction between BRICS as a group and the bank. It's not the same thing, of course. Of course, we can talk more at length about these distinctions. But BRICS also developed throughout the years common positions in peace and security fora, in social fora, including the United Nations General Assembly, the UN Security Council, the World Health Organization, among others. And in the sphere of cooperation, ties among the member states have progressively deepened based on the common challenges associated with the pursuit of economic and social development. Today, cooperation activities are being carried out across a wide range of areas, including trade, agriculture, health, science and technology and innovation, security, and so on. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we saw, BRICS countries have developed throughout more than 15 years solid political coordination and cooperation in a number of fields. But we should not play down the plain fact that this is a diverse group of countries. What then holds the group together beyond, of course, as I have said, our shared perceptions and interests connected to the reform of global governance institutions? Of course, this is again, this is a personal perception regarding, especially regarding the dynamics of internal dynamics of Brics. So, in this respect, I venture to say that Brics could be defined as a mechanism of political coordination and cooperation that was created by sheer political will of its members. From its inception, the political motivation that held and still holds today the group together stems from the shared perception that despite their geographic dispersion and diverse backgrounds, their interests converge, either sometimes very concretely, sometimes we see potentially. This is another discussion, another box of discussions, but the conversions are there in various fields. To my mind, the first Leaders' Declaration reflected this perception, and also in a number of subsequent Leaders' Declaration, we find this idea of convergence of interest in diversity. The dynamics of intra-Brics dialogue and coordination is characterized by a patient and pragmatic approach to consensus building. Patience stems from the assessment that the deepening of ties between such diverse countries relies on a comprehensive and sustained effort to bring their state agencies and institutions, as well as their civil societies, closer together. Pragmatism reflects a sensitivity to the extent to which convergence is possible in terms of interests and worldviews. This approach has been instrumental, I think, in identifying areas of coordination and cooperation that actually have the potential of generating joint initiatives and having tangible results. Of course, the concept of tangible results when it comes to the world of diplomacy is something that has to be worked on. It's not tangible in the sense that you add 2 + 2. So, in a nutshell, political will, sheer political will exercised with patience and pragmatism has strengthened the cohesion of the group by building trust little by little among its members, and as well as by ensuring good progress in the group's coordination and cooperation initiatives. This also applies, I think, to the more recent years of growing geopolitical challenges, as we know, and of course in a context of low economic growth and economic adjustment in some of the members of Brics. Well, this brief recapitulation of the historical circumstances in which Brics was established and on how Brics has held together and thrived indeed. They demonstrate, in my view, its capacity to absorb new countries. Capacity meaning to absorb new countries while keeping the group functional and producing added value for its members. When we talk, of course, about the expansion of Brics, the first plain fact that comes to mind is that 30, as I said at the outset, 30 plus countries have expressed concrete interest in joining Brics. And this has been going on for some years now. It's not really a recent phenomenon. And this is remarkable in and of itself. I think this gives a lot to everybody, a lot to think about. Why 30 plus countries are willing to join Brics. This widespread interest in joining the group seems to reflect some factors, among other factors. Of course, we could elaborate more in detail, more on that more in detail. But clearly, I think that it reflects that the reforms advocated by the group since its establishment are increasingly necessary and have become more urgent nowadays. Multilateral institutions clearly are in a stalemate, are not delivering, be it in terms of peace and security, concrete action in addressing the challenges faced by the majority of humanity, meaning violence, poverty, food security, economic stagnation, climate change, and so on and so forth. And of course, inclusiveness. It is about, of course, including a larger portion of the world community in the decision making, not and moving from rule takers to, at least to a certain extent, rule makers. Another factor I think that is reflected, that reflects this interest for joining BRICS, it's an urge, as I have just mentioned, towards inclusiveness and multipolarity among emerging countries and developing countries of the Global South. And of course, the Global South countries seems to believe, as we have already said, that it is in their interest to look for new fora, new spaces of discussion, articulation, and cooperation. So now, of course, this is a more forward-looking thinking, and I hope an educated guess. I think the expansion of BRICS will bring benefits to its new and old members on at least two fronts: political, diplomatic, and economic. On the political and diplomatic level, the expansion of BRICS provides certainly an opportunity to increase the voice and influence of its members in international affairs, guaranteeing greater the so-called soft balancing capacity of its members. On the economic level, expansion could help increase trade and investment flows between members in the medium and long term. We are not talking here about the idea of negotiating a free trade agreement among BRICS members. This has been already debated throughout the years when I was working for BRICS. Of course, this is quite challenging given the diversity of countries and diversity of interests. And as I have mentioned before, I think pragmatism and the sense that we have to work on the convergences, not playing down divergences, has led the group to focus more on trade facilitation, on also on fostering FDIs among BRICS member countries. But this expansion, of course, has added to the group countries who have great FDI capacity, so to say, and also are very important players in the energy field. And here we are talking about sustainable and non-sustainable energy. But of course, we are living through times of energy transition, and the two sources of energy are still really relevant for the energy security of the world. Also, on the economic front, I think there is also an added value in the sense, meaning the expansion, in view of the current environmental based protectionism, as you have been seeing some policies applied by a number of countries, erecting barriers to trade based on environmental rationale. Of course, we are not denying the importance of the environmental rationale, but of course there is more to that. And so the group also can be a voice against the political instrumentalization of environmental-based protectionism, and also against the so-called instrumentalization of interdependence, meaning weaponization of interdependence. So I think that BRICS could be a voice that reiterates its commitment to global economic cooperation, and taking a critical point of view against these tendencies of new protectionism, and of course leading to fragmentation. So, in concluding these remarks, I have been throughout my BRICS years And now reading some analysis of think tanks and academia, we have been seeing that some analysts are saying that one of the implications of the group's expansion for the international order would be an expanded group trying to promote a so-called alternative order, excluding Western countries. Here is Brazil's point of view, of course, not my personal point of view. I have here mixed personal experiences, but here this is clearly a Brazilian government position. Brazil always conceived BRICS as a constructive force aimed at promoting the reform of multilateral institutions of global governance, firmly anchored in the principles of international law. The reform of multilateral institutions is necessarily a collective task, the implementation of which depends on the creation of a cooperative dynamic that cannot exist without Western partners. So this is how we see the role of BRICS in international international affairs. And also, in closing, saying that it applies to BRICS, applies to G20. Brazil does not see BRICS or G20 as substitutes for multilateral fora. We see these are groups which can be used as building blocks for a more universal consensus. We don't as holding these days the G20 presidency, we are making this very clear. We are not going for a replacement of the multilateral institutions, on the contrary. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. Nobrega. I think you've hit all the right notes to begin this session and also to begin this day's discussions. And you've made a very strong case for the expansion of membership of BRICS, but keeping in mind that the reform of, let us call it, the current global order or international institutions cannot take place without the cooperation of the West as well. Thank you very much again. Now I invite the Honorable Mr. Alexei Damkin, Consul General for the Russian Federation, pleased to speak to us.
Good morning, my dear colleagues on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, Chancellor, Vice Chancellor, and other dignitaries, students, professors, friends. Well, taking the lead from Ambassador of Brazil who talked about the history of BRICS, I'll more focus on today's situation. Now, Russia has taken over the chairmanship on the 1st of January, and I'll just tell you about what are Russia's priorities with the focus on economic and political both, but more on the practical steps and what Russian government thinks is necessary, with, of course, taking into consideration the newest development that the 5 countries were joined by another 5 countries, and how this new development will play out in further in BRICS history. So, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this important seminar, namely Indian Council of World Affairs, Netaji Institute for Asian Studies, and obviously, and first and foremost, the Adamas University and H.P. Ghosh Research Center. There are many reasons why it is so important now, especially in the context of the current global transformation where BRICS can play a defining role. As I already said, on 1st of January 2024, Russia assumed the BRICS chairmanship, which now, according to the decision of the 15th BRICS Leaders Summit approved in August 2023, includes 10 states, I'll remind: Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Egypt joined BRICS as new full members. We will take, as a chairmanship, we will take all possible steps to facilitate the harmonious integration of the new members into all BRICS formats. And we also take into account the readiness of many other countries to join the BRICS in one way or another. The expansion of the association is a convincing testimony to the growing authority of the BRICS, and I totally agree with His Excellency, Mr. De Nobrega. And the reason is quite simple why this is the testimony. BRICS offers consensus-based, equal, mutually beneficial, and non-politicized cooperation. In BRICS, there is no space for a dominance, unilateral and confrontational approaches, double standards, sanctions, weaponizations of economy and currencies, as well as interference in domestic affairs. The Russian chairmanship is aimed at strengthening the BRICS global influence as one of the core instruments promoting the Global South agenda. The interesting fact that 15th BRICS Leaders Summit in August 2023 was attended by more than 60 countries. The achieved level of dialogue and cooperation, as well as a common position on vital issues, are core preconditions to make the voice of developing nations stronger for the real democratization of the global governance. The theme of Russia's chairmanship is strengthening multilateralism for equitable global development and security, which includes both the development and continuity of the previously discussed issues and the directions in which Russia has significantly accumulated the best practices. Within the framework of our chairmanship, it is planned to organize more than 200 events of various levels and different focus in many Russian cities. The main event, the BRICS Summit, will take place in Kazan in October this year. Regular meetings of high representatives on security, foreign and finance ministers, parliamentary forum, as well as around 70 other mechanisms are scheduled. The agenda is very tight this year indeed. One of the major tasks is to ensure smooth accommodation and integration of the new members without compromising on the efficiency of BRICS. We are also planning to work out the modalities of a new category of BRICS partners and identify potential candidates. We are going to deepen the dialogue with all interested countries in the format BRICS Plus Outreach. Among the priorities is to enhance coordination in the UN, G20, WTO, and other multilateral platforms on the fight against terrorism, drug trafficking, cyber crimes, corruption, money laundering, and legalization of criminal assets. Russia would favor to resume the pre-pandemic practice of regular meetings of BRICS leaders on the sidelines of the G20 summits, while the agenda of both fora is widely supplementary. We are also keen to continue positive experience in conducting extraordinary Brics summits on vital issues, as we did at the virtual Brics summit on the situation in the Middle East, which took place in November 2023. Our chairmanship includes the priorities in such important human-centric areas like healthcare, digitalization, science and technology, innovations, artificial intelligence, energy efficiency, food security, supply chains, customs, e-commerce, smart cities, MSME support, and even space in the framework of the remote satellite constellation agreement, so space exploration also. We will promote the implementation of the BRICS Economic Partnership Strategy and Innovation Cooperation Action Plan, as well as the initiatives under BRICS Business Council, Women's Business Alliance, Vaccine Research and Development Center, Agriculture Research Platform, Railway Research Network, the New Industrial Revolution Center, Center for Technology Transfer, iBRICS Center, Energy Research Cooperation Platform. So the plans are, as I said, quite extensive. But I don't say that these institutions should. It's just the path to start to work on that. One of the most important achievements of BRICS is the new development bank, as well as the contingent currency agreement. Our partnership in this area is ensuring the growing role of BRICS countries in the international financial system. To date, the NDB's loan portfolio includes around 100 projects amounting to more than 32 billion US dollars. In order to diversify and expand its potential for the benefit of the member economies, it is going to increase the share of non-sovereign projects and to promote cooperation network with other multilateral and national development and commercial banks. We also welcome NDB's new shareholders like Bangladesh, UAE, Egypt, and Uruguay, and expect more countries to join in. The BRICS members are taking consistent steps to switch to settlements in national currencies and work out new independent payment mechanisms. We will support the deepening dialogue between taxation, customs, and competition authorities. We will also see the implementation of the Russian proposal to use the NDB's potential to support the INSTC project to enhance regional connectivity. I'm talking about North-South corridor. Traditionally, considerable attention will be paid to the humanitarian track. We intend to expand contacts in culture, sports, and youth affairs, as well as think tank exchanges. In June 2024, we plan to conduct BRICS sports games. So generally, just a bit now, as there was a lot of concrete details, just to speculate on the general ideas more now, I would say that BRICS exemplifies a new formation which can be called a flexible integration based on consensus and being truly comprehensive. All that makes this association even stronger than any agreement-based supernatural alliance or a bloc, meaning that we eagerly cooperate on everything we have voluntarily agreed upon and can adequately react to emerging new realities. We can even disagree on something, but it doesn't mean a failure of BRICS, since it represents a platform where every voice is heard and taken into serious consideration. It doesn't deal with bilateral issues, but at the same time, it also provides for additional opportunities for the dialogue and the expansion of a common ground. With over one-third of the world's GDP, a total population of around 3 billion people, and a strong desire of other states to join, it is safe to say that BRICS becomes an integral part of an evolving multipolar paradigm. It is our collective responsibility to efficiently address its potential with a view to consolidate the global majority in solving common development issues and to jointly overcome acute imbalances. The participation in BRICS makes its members sound global. BRICS is an unequivocally priority of the Russian foreign policy, and it will remain so in future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Idamkin. Yes, it seems to us that you've already had a meeting of senior officials in Moscow, and so you've got your chairmanship of BRICS off to really a flying start. And it seems that you've touched on many of the issues that are going to be in front of the chairmanship this year. The first is integrating the new members into the organization. The other is dealing with the tidal wave, almost, of new applications. And you have this additional challenge there of dealing with the question of Saudi Arabia, which, though has been invited to join, presumably on the basis of an application from that country, still has not formally acceded to the organization. And you've mentioned an extremely important aspect of the BRICS agenda for the future, which is the de-dollarization of international trade. I think it's very important to look at this aspect, especially in the light of illegal and unilateral sanctions imposed by certain countries on others, which has had a huge bearing on price rise in most of the world. And I think that Russia, China, and Brazil have come to an arrangement to expedite the question of use of local currencies in international trade, and this will be a very important aspect that we shall be keeping an eye on during this year. So thank you very much indeed. Now I request the Acting Consul General of China, Mr. Xin Dong, to please say a few words.
Hello. Honorable His Excellency Ambassador Norbraga. That's right. Okay. Honorable Consul General Idam King, and Honorable Ambassador Srinivasan, and Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Das, who invited me to attend this very important international seminar. Good morning, maybe this good afternoon. Okay. I noticed that today's topic is the opportunity created by the BRICS expansion. It's very good topic theme for at this time, because we all know that from on January the 1st, 2024, there are 5 more countries become full members of BRICS. Now we have we call this a greater BRIC, maybe a big BRIC. Okay, and this now we have expanded to 10 members. This fully demonstrates the bright future of BRICS cooperation. Just as mentioned, there are around 30 countries are applying for the new membership for that. So we are full of confidence in the future development of BRICS cooperation. And we believe that the BRICS cooperation will benefit the whole world. And today's speech, the first, I'd like to speak about the significance of the BRICS expansion. First, the success of the new expansion has made the BRICS more representative and dynamic. The BRICS is an important cooperation platform among emerging markets and the developing countries. The accession of Middle East countries such as Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Iran has increased the diversity of the member. And the join of Egypt and Ethiopia will enable African countries to better establish all-round ties with the world, especially the vast numbers of developing countries under the BRICS cooperation mechanism demonstrate the stronger representative and the vitality of the BRICS. The second, BRICS expansion promotes fair and sustainable development of economic globalization. We BRICS countries have leveraged our complementary strengths, constantly promote practical cooperation in various fields, created an enabling environment for sustainable development and inclusive growth, and played a positive role in promoting world economic recovery. BRICS cooperation emphasizes the maintenance of an open global economic system, opposes protectionism and unilateralism, advocates free trade and investment, emphasizes openness and inclusiveness. South-South cooperation promotes multicultural exchanges and integration, and strives to achieve common progress of emerging markets and the developing countries. The third, we need to make the reform of global governance more just and equitable. According to the data in 2022, the expanded BRICS countries account for is almost 45.6% of the world's population and 28.6% of the world's GDP. In terms of PPP, the purchasing power parity, the BRICS countries' share of the world economy in 2022 has already surpassed that of the G7. The collective rise of emerging markets and developing countries represented by the BRICS countries will further strengthen the confidence and the confidence of the global South countries to seek strength through unity, increase the influence and voice of the global South countries, and help to promote the reform of global governance in a more just and equitable direction. As just now, His Excellency Ambassador, also CG, all mentioned that. So it's, we have four consensus on this this trend. So over the past 18 years, the BRICS has become increasingly cohesive and influential. It has become a stable and a positive force for good in international affairs. BRICS cooperation has injected more confidence and impetus into the global economy, which faces many uncertainties. It seems it meets the common aspiration of emerging markets and the developing countries and conforms to historic trend of a multipolar world. China will work with BRICS partners to push for new achievements in greater BRICS cooperation. So talking about the BRICS cooperation vision, we describe it as a universal, beneficial, and inclusive economic globalization. We know that since the end of the Cold War, economic globalization has enabled thriving trade, easy investment, great flow of people, and technological advancement, underpinning the rapid development of the world economy. It can be said that economic globalization is an inherent requirement of developing productive forces, a natural result of scientific and technological advancement, a sure path to a human progress, and more importantly, an irreversible trend of the times. However, recent years, we have seen that notable prevalence of various forms of protectionist measures and the disturbing attempts to shift blames onto others to deflect attention from one's domestic problems. Facts have proven that deglobalization or decoupling will not solve one's own deep-seated problems. It will only disrupt the global industry and the supply chains, hamper the health development of the world economy, and undermine the interests of all countries. The expected BRICS countries are more representative and inclusive, and will further promote economic globalization that benefits all. The economic globalization China advocates is one that is universally beneficial. It means meeting the common needs of all countries, especially the developing countries, properly addressing the development imbalance between and within countries resulting from the global allocation of resources and delivering balanced and adequate development. This will help foster a globalization progress that enables faster development of all countries, especially the developing countries, and realize universal benefit and common prosperity. The economic globalization China advocates is one that is inclusive. It means supporting all countries in finding development paths suited to their own national conditions and working together for the common development of mankind. We should oppose all forms of unilateralism and protectionism, resist discriminatory and exclusive standards and rules, promote trade and investment liberalization and facilitation, maintain the stability and unimpeded flow of global industry and supply chains, encourage mutual understanding and accommodation of all parties, and accommodate each other's interests and concerns, and maintain the vitality and the momentum of global economic growth. So for the development opportunities of the expansion, I think there'll be many fields we can do that. Just as I mentioned here, it's a trade complementary and broader markets. China's trade structure with other BRICS countries is complementary, and expansion of the BRICS membership will further promote the growth of trade among BRICS countries and with the rest of the world. Like Saudi Arabia, Iran, and the UAE are all important members of the OPEC and have rich oil and natural gas resources. Egypt and Ethiopia are rich in mineral and water resources, and it's a very good representative of from North Africa and East Africa. Then we add to the South Africa. We can say it's connected all the Africa continental with the rest of the world. The expanded BRICS countries have not only rich natural endowments, but also vast land, abundant human resources, and broader markets. Extensive economic and trade cooperation and enhanced economic exchanges among us will help them give full play to their respective economic characteristics and the resource advantages, thus becoming one of the important engines of the global South. As for China, we will further open our markets to BRICS countries and welcome more supplies of energy, agricultural products, and raw materials to us. These characteristics show the trade structure of BRICS countries is complementary, and there is a huge space for future cooperation. The Chinese gate is open wider and wider. You can see that we by the end of 2023, we give free visas to 3 Asian countries: Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, for these 3 countries' citizens, and the 6 EU countries, including Spain, Italy, France. These countries. And there's a one and only import exhibition in the world. This is hosted by our Chinese government. It is called CIIE, China International Import Export. So this is only one. We open our market, welcome all the exporters from all over the world, to have a big show stage in our country. So in terms of, that's a trade. Another one is investment. In terms of cross-border investment, the share of foreign direct investment, FDI, and outward direct investment, ODI, of BRICS countries in the world has gradually increased. Mutual investment among BRICS countries will also further increase, especially in the cooperative development of minor resources, clean energy transformation, and other investment opportunities will be more prominent, so as to better achieve mutual benefit and win-win cooperation. In conclusion, China will continue to work with India, Russia, Brazil, and other BRICS countries and the rest of the world to build a community with a shared future for mankind, and promote to build an open and inclusive, clean and beautiful world that enjoys lasting peace, universal security, and common prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Consul General. Very interesting to hear you also talking about balanced development, South-South cooperation, and increased trade among BRICS countries. Many thanks to you. Now, the panel has agreed to take a few questions, and as before, I think it would be better for me to group them together. I'd be grateful if you would please identify to whom you address your question, but let me have a show of hands, please. Thank you. Someone with a mic will come to you soon.
Hello. Okay. Good morning, respected panel. Good morning, everyone. My name is Adit Bhattacharya. I'm a UG student of International Relations. And this question is to the panel in general. We have seen that the BRICS aims to get to a very non-Western or the non-West idea that we create a group, or the BRICS creates a group that is separate from the Western hegemonic groups. I had a question which I don't know how much relevant will it be, but still, to create such a non-Western group or a multilateral group separate from the Western ideas or the Western powers, we need to create a unified currency. So, and I was hoping that anyone could shine light on how to create that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir. This is Oindrila, history final year student, and I want to ask you that China has been investing in different countries of the different members of BRICS, which is leading to its improvement of economical development. But in case of India, India is not getting that much of chance to invest in other, like China, that much. So how it will lead to the improvement or the development of its economy, being a member of BRICS?
Thank you very much. Very enlightening presentations.
Sir?
Question to Russian CG, who is holding the presidency of BRICS. Could you please throw some light on what exactly is the state of play about Saudi Arabia? Are they in or are they out, or what is going to happen to their membership? And a related question to acting CG of China. We are hearing the word 30 countries. which are trying to be members. Can you confirm that Indonesia and Pakistan are the candidates in this, and what is your country's position on their candidature? Thank you.
Good morning, respected dignitaries. I am Rishabh Kumar Ram, a second year student of history, and my question is in general with all the dignitaries present on the dais. My question is, where do you see the future of BRICS as an organization in the next 20 years, keeping in mind the differing stands of the member countries on various socio, political and economic factors revolving in between the member countries of BRICS as well as on global basis? Thank you.
20 years is a fairly long horizon. I must say that when I was a Foreign Service practitioner, we were very happy with 5 years. But anyway, one last question, please.
May I ask you, the Honorable Consul General, Chinese Consul General, you have mentioned it's related to you are allowing visa to 3 countries of Southeast Asia. That is Malaysia, if I'm not wrong, Thailand and Singapore. Why not Cambodia? Why not Laos? And why not Indonesia?
Is that a question relating to BRICS?
No, because he's explaining related to the opening the visa, so I think that this is a simple query.
No, I think
that
that's not relevant. Sir.
Good morning, sir. My name is Doipan Chandradee. I'm from the IR Department of Adamas. So my question will be directed to Sir Idamkin, as he has touched on the topic of NDB. So I wanted to ask that as the function of development financing has been carried out by international institutions like the World Bank and the IMF, and also unilateral development financing by individual nations, the larger economies. So what more does the NDB brings out on the table that makes it a viable option for developing nations to reach out to that?
Okay, thank you. I think, Mr. Ambassador, would you like to deal with the question of a unified currency? There's a microphone on the table.
Okay, to my understanding, we are not discussing these days in BRICS a unified currency. We are not talking about currency union. What you are talking about, it's about promoting trade in local currencies, developing payment instruments and platforms. And in this respect, as you have seen in the Johannesburg Declaration last summit, the leaders tasked their financial institutions, pertinent financial institutions, to present a study on the feasibility of promoting, fostering trade in local currencies, and of course creating the platforms which would reduce transaction costs related to trade. So it's not about a single currency. From the point of view of Brazil, this would be extremely complex, because when you talk about unifying a currency, you are talking about coordinating monetary policy and associated to that fiscal policy, budgetary policy, and so on and so forth. So I don't think it's about unifying our currencies, but fostering trade in local currencies.
The second question was about investments in other BRICS countries. I think you are absolutely the right person to talk about that as well.
Okay, I think there was a question regarding how countries are benefiting or stand to benefit from FDIs among BRICS countries, for that matter among the expanded BRICS member countries. For Brazil, let me just make a small observation. The five countries that have acceded to BRICS are in the process of accession to BRICS are solid partners of Brazil historically. Egypt is nowadays, I think, the second largest economic or trade/economic partner of Brazil in Africa. It was years ago. It was the first one. When it comes to the Emirates, United Emirates, it's one of the more important sources of FDI these days in Brazil. The sovereign funds of the Emirates are all present in Brazil and making investments in a whole range of areas. Saudi Arabia is one of the major destinations of our agribusiness exports, so is Iran. So for Brazil, I'm speaking from Brazil, of course, the accession of these 5 countries are really very beneficial to us in the sense that we will coordinate more with them. If you allow me a small digression, perhaps I should have included in my presentation, one of the gains of being BRICS members, and this I think these gains will be expanded, is an enhanced contact between state institutions, not only foreign affairs. And when you have all these more than 100 meetings a year where state civil servants talk to each other and elaborate on possibilities in a spirit of seeking complementarities and synergies, it helps a lot. So in the case of Brazil, having these 5 countries with which we already have strong relations will be very beneficial. So I'm quite optimistic about this.
I think I'd just add a footnote to that, if I may, for the lady. I don't think there's any embargo or ban on Indian investments in China.
By the way, Indian investments in Brazil are booming. Now it's almost 7 billion.
Yes. Mr. Idamkin, there was a question from Mr. Bhatia about Russia, about Saudi Arabia's application, which was accepted to join BRICS, but they have not actually participated in the senior officials meeting, and we have no confirmation. But I don't know whether you have any information on that subject.
Well, first of all, just speak a bit philosophically about the BRICS as a structure. It's indeed in terms of organization and legal status, BRICS is not an international organization. It's not an institutionalized interstate association. It has no charter, there's no rules of conduct for its members, no mutual obligations, and no administrative body secretariat technically coordinating its activities. So, well, as far as my understanding goes, there are 10 members now. Well, there was one 11th member which withdrew its decision, as we'll know. But for now, I think there is no official confirmation from any other countries that they would change their position, to my knowledge. Let's see.
No, that's fine. I think it's a very difficult question to answer at this point of time. We only can hope that you as chairman would be able to persuade Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, to join.
More active, yeah, in this.
Then, Mr. Consul General, a question was directed to you by Mr. Bhatia, asking whether you have any view, China has any view on the applications, if there are such applications, from Indonesia and Pakistan.
Okay, thanks for the question. And I think two questions about China. So first one talking about the application. Actually, we are consulate. We don't have the full list of these countries. But I think we are open for all the countries. Just also, Idam King just mentioned, it's not an international organization. It is like we have a common consensus. Then we cooperate together based on the the same concept. And so I think we're open for all countries, but this one need the members can get a common consensus to that. Okay. So for investment, Chinese investment with India. Okay, actually we are the keywords for China is always cooperation. We'd like to cooperate with all of the countries, have in economic and in trade and investment. But you can see that we all read some news that our Chinese companies are facing some problems, difficulties in here. So maybe someone have some worried in the companies. There's some worries from our most are private companies, private sectors that they're not to expand their investment here. So this is I think this is maybe a question better to ask some of the Indian government officers. Okay, we would like to come here. I just take another example. We open all visa types to Indian citizens, but up to now, even the end of the pandemic for a long time, we Chinese citizens cannot get a visa to come here for visit. For trade, we just can get maybe very few businessmen can get visa to come to India. So that's why the investment in India, we are facing some difficulties on that. So we'd like to cooperate with all the friends, all the companies here. Like we have a very close relations with all the major chambers in Kolkata, in West Bengal. They have very good relations with Chinese companies in China, but their partners very hard to come to visit here. So the investment, the business here, actually shrinked a lot comparing to that of before the pandemic. So that's a question I can say that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. On the new development bank, the capital was $50 billion. And to my understanding, some $30 billion has already been earmarked, if not perhaps spent. So I think it's quite successful, and the framework of the new development bank is far less stringent. It's far more accessible to developing countries. In many ways, it sets very good standards for international financial institutions. Vice Chancellor wanted to ask a last question.
Yeah, could I first compliment the three excellent incisive statements from the representatives of Brazil, Russia, and China. Now, one common point that emerged from the three presentations is the emphasis on trading in local currencies. Now, my question is, will this process be possible without the de-dollarization of the world monetary system? Second, the Honorable Consul General of Russia gave us a list of very impressive happenings that will come when once Russia activates its presidency of the Brics, because he stated that about 100 meetings amongst the, sorry? Around 200 meetings. Now, I was wondering, how are you planning to involve the non-state actors in these meetings? Because one of the crucial features of India's G20 presidency was involvement of the non-state actors during his presidency. As a result, civil society became involved, the teachers became involved, students became involved, and that gave a real dynamism to the India's G20 presidency. So I would strongly suggest that please consider the involvement of non-state actors in the 200 meetings that you are envisaging. Thank you.
Yes, yes, I totally agree with you. Do you hear me? Oh, well. Yes, that's part of Russia's chairmanship program. We have, as I said, planning outreach to civil society, sports organizations, women's organizations within the Brics framework, and also think tanks are quite active, and we very much promote different meetings like we're having now. And in parallel, as I see all over the world, there are meetings where Brics officials, government officials of the now 5 countries, but actually I'll just now just something came to my mind that why wouldn't the such organizations like universities and think tanks invite now 10 representatives from 10 countries, because it's a bit of inertia. We tried to invite 5, but just curious if you try to reach the newly joined members. But anyway, continuing my, so yes, the think tanks are one of the main issue, which gives the fuel for food for thought for the governments, and this interaction is very important. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I think that concludes this session.
Thank you so much for the enlightening session, and this is the last protocol of the day. I would request Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor Sir, Adamas University, Professor Radhatamal Goswami Sir, to do the felicitation. I request the chair of the session, Krishna Srinivasan Sir. His Excellency, Ambassador of Brazil to India, Kenneth Felix. Honorable Consul General, Russian Federation and Dean of Consular Corps, Mr. Alex Idamkin. Finally, with the Acting Consul General, People's Republic of China, Mr. Qing Yong. I request all the panelists to have a group photo here, please. We request the Vice Chancellor to join the dais, please. Thank you, sirs.
Could we now go to the next panel? And this panel will discuss strategic concerns confronting BRICS, local, regional, and global implications. We have with us as the speaker Dr. Lakshmi Priya. She represents the Indian Council of World Affairs, and the session will be chaired by our colleague, Professor Tridip Chakraborty. Tridip Chakraborty is a distinguished scholar in international relations. He is a particular specialist in Southeast Asia. He was earlier with the Jadavpur University International Relations Department, and now he is a colleague of us in Adams University. He is the Dean of School of Liberal Arts, and he was the ICCR chair at Dublin City University. He has a number of publications to his credit. And could I request Professor Tridip Chakraborty and Dr. Lakshmi Priya to come up to the dais? Professor Chakraborty, could you please chair the session?
Good afternoon. I think you have heard for the last 1.5 days related to Brics. A number of important questions have been raised by students and other intellectuals. So this is a session. The title of the session is Strategic Concern Confronting Brics, Local, Regional and Global Implication. So there are two speakers. One is Professor Shantanu Chakraborty, Department of History, University of Calcutta, and Lakshmi Priya. But unfortunately, because of certain personal reasons, Shantanu is not presenting his paper. So I will request Rashmi Priya to present her paper. Well, let me introduce Rashmi Priya. She is a research fellow at the Indian Council of World Affairs. She holds a PhD degree from JNU, especially West Asia, and has specialized in various aspects of international relations, especially on the issue of human rights. So since there's a 20 minutes, you can finish it 20 minutes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And it gives me immense pleasure to be here among the young students who are not only present here but actively participated in the seminar. And I'll be speaking on the significance of Brics for the Middle East and prospects for India. So we have been listening about why is expansion important for Brics. So I would be looking at why is the expansion important for the Middle Eastern countries, their perspectives. So at the Johannesburg summit, the Brics grouping agreed to admit 4 Middle Eastern countries, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, UAE, and Iran, as Brics members with effect from 1st January 2024. Arab countries that applied to join Brics are Algeria, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Kuwait, Morocco, and Palestine. Another regional country, a non-Arab country, interested in joining Brics is Turkey, led by President Erdogan, who expressed his keenness to join the grouping at the 10th Brics Summit and said that Brics members should take the necessary steps to let Turkey enter the grouping. Brics membership is perceived as an entry to an elite club that has the potential to revive multilateralism while emphasizing on a multipolar world order. So let's see, why is Brics important for the Middle East countries at individual, regional, and global level? For individual countries, the Brics membership comes with economic advantages, mainly associated with trade, market access, and FDIs. It also leads to an increased bargaining power and voice on international issues. For example, Brics has been bringing the issue of Palestinian statehood to the international center stage. The 15th summit concluded with a declaration calling for a two-state solution, leading to the establishment of a sovereign and independent state of Palestine. Egypt and UAE eye BRICS membership majorly in order to pursue their geo-economic interests, while for Turkey, Iran, and Saudi Arabia, geopolitical concerns supersede the financial gains. As strong economies led by young leadership, countries like Saudi Arabia and UAE aim to contribute to and benefit from the BRICS membership. For Egypt and Iran, joining BRICS also has a developmental value as they tend to benefit from the digitization wave and address the digital divide while improving the quality of life. Post-Arab Spring uprising, the Egyptian pound has depreciated. Its investment and tourism has waned and have forced the country to use its cash reserves and cut state subsidies. Cairo looks at gaining economic stability through the cushion provided by the contingent reserve arrangement of the NDB. Similarly, for UAE, the BRICS membership signifies an economic partnership, providing an opportunity to engage with the member countries with new fervor. It eyes China and India as market destinations in South Asia, while considering proactive Russia as an alternative to the Western dominance in the region. For BRICS, Emirates' wealth can be used to boost the NDB's credit rating and overall reputation. BRICS finds the UAE's emphasis on and support of an innovative entrepreneurial culture conducive to NDB's aim to establish projects faster than other multilateral development banks. Coming to Iran, reeling under the economic sanctions and keen to revive the JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, it perceives BRICS membership as an opportunity to attract investments and strengthen the weak economy, as well as getting a seat in a non-Western grouping. Due to its unique geographical position, short and inexpensive transportation, transit networks, and energy reserves, Iran can be a stable and reliable partner for the grouping. For Saudi Arabia, BRICS membership is a loud and clear signal of shaky ties with the United States. The membership will bring definite gains for the kingdom, as Riyadh aims to diversify its economy. Joining BRICS reflects the weakening of unwavering support and trust in the United States and warming of ties with the Russia, China, and other countries. For the NATO member Turkey, BRICS membership provides an opportunity to expand its international organizational network in non-Western zones. The global economic crisis has also reminded Turkey of the significance of alternative regional frameworks. Through BRICS membership, Turkey hopes to gain an access to more influence in global affairs. Looking through the wider lens at the regional level, MENA countries, that is Middle East and North African countries, will also benefit from the new development bank, which aims to mobilize resources for infrastructure and sustainable development projects in emerging markets and developing countries. UAE and Egypt have joined NDB in 2021 and 2023 respectively and expect to gain from the membership. The membership provides co-financing opportunities for the UAE's private and sovereign investors, such as Mubadala, and delivers greater market access to the BRICS countries. On the other hand, being a top-tier credit rating country, UAE could add to the bank's capital resources. NDB's operations during the 2022 to 26 period will focus on clean energy, transport infrastructure, water and sanitation, environment protection, and social and digital infrastructure. And the new MENA members will gain through collaborations in these areas. Secondly, the joining of BRICS by the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Egypt will strengthen MENA countries' support for multilateralism. These countries are vocal advocates and have earlier voiced their support as well as expressed their keenness to join forums like BRICS, SCO, and G20. For example, Iran has been an ardent supporter of multilateralism, saying that it must be founded on inclusiveness rather than exclusion, and UAE believes that the global south is severely disadvantaged in multilateral governance. Saudi Arabia believes that multilateral platforms help address global challenges and provide opportunities for all countries to grow their institutional capabilities. Similarly, Egypt has stressed that multilateral institutions should focus on sustainable development and allocate appropriate representation to Africa. At the international level, the entry of Middle East countries signifies the waning influence of the United States of America and rising significance of Russia and China in the region. Joining BRICS also provides an opportunity for the MENA countries to share the platform with the world's emerging economies, especially as the economic center of the world is predicted to shift towards India and China by 2050. BRICS was formed with an objective to capitalize the overarching economic power of the grouping. However, it is evident that the geo-economic dominance has the potential to provide geopolitical leverages. For BRICS, an expansion means a broader base to engage with other regional associations. For the first time, the grouping had expanded in 2010 when it included South Africa as a member. Coming closer, India associates high importance to engagement with BRICS as a platform for coordination, consultation, and cooperation on current issues. Indian Foreign Minister had said that BRICS offers inclusive and innovative solutions to many long-standing challenges. India welcomes the expansion of BRICS as it hopes to infuse cooperation with new momentum and energy. Prime Minister Modi said at the 2023 summit that India has deep and historic relationships with all the new members, and with the help of BRICS, India will add new dimensions to its bilateral cooperation. At the 6th BRICS summit in Brazil, India had proposed important initiatives in order to strengthen intra-BRICS cooperation, and the revised strategy for BRICS economic partnership provides a basis for it. India has warm ties with all the Middle East countries, member countries especially, and can look forward to engage in economic partnerships with them at this platform. India's offer of the digital public infrastructure to BRICS partners and the proposal to undertake skill mapping and promoting mobility among BRICS countries is in line with enhancing the intra-BRICS cooperation. India had proposed for establishment of an online database for BRICS documents, BRICS Railways Research Network, and strengthening cooperation between MSMEs at the 14th summit. Also, India sees BRICS as a non-West instead of an anti-West grouping and believes that there are enough convergences among the member countries to overpower the divergences on certain issues. India welcomes Russia's chairmanship of BRICS that began in January 2024 and hopes that BRICS as a grouping will gain more strength and momentum. Lastly, joining of these Middle Eastern economies symbolizes rise of the global South with potential to rebalance the global order away from West. During its presidency of G20, India shared a vision of being the voice of the global South and added African Union as a full member. I will stop here. Thank you.
Now it's the time to ask question to the speaker.
Hello, ma'am. This is Navamita from the Department of Political Science. Given the mission of the session as of now, we are talking about the strategic concerns. My question is, since yesterday, I have been, there is a common consensus on the point that good politics breeds good economics and vice versa. So my point is, BRICS is essentially more like an economic conglomerate of the developing nations of the South. Here's, ma'am, how are we addressing the question of terrorism, especially when we have task force that kind of regulates the flow of money, which aid terrorist groups, and we know how the global South countries are afflicted with this concern, especially when Prime Minister Modi has been deliberately and he has been championing the cause of anti-terrorism. So how has, is there any progress on this among the BRICS countries? Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir, madam. I am Ashwani Kumar Nayak from Master of Computer Application,
and I have a question that infrastructure connectivity. How do BRICS initiatives impact regional infrastructure connectivity? Are there disparities in transportation and communication networks among the member nations?
Good afternoon, ma'am. I am Ina Biswas from Political Science Department. My question is a bit similar to what already has ma'am addressed. So I would like to know that how would this Middle Eastern membership affect the security cooperation within BRICS, particularly in regard to regional conflicts?
Good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Vitanshu Nandi from the Department of International Relations. So my question is that how will the inclusion of Middle Eastern countries, especially Iran and UAE, will affect the economic relations with India and other BRICS members in the near years? Thank you so much.
Anyone else? No more question.
Very good afternoon, respected panelists. My name is Prothoy Ghotok. I am from Department of Law, an assistant professor. I have this question when we are talking about BRICS, and especially in terms of the expansion. It does feel similar to something that has happened earlier during Cold War, something that non-aligned movement. So I was just wondering that when we are talking about the BRICS expansion and all the other things, and especially we are focusing on that how BRICS is trying to make a multipolar world. So in that particular regards, how the ideology of the non-aligned movement that was back there during the Cold War time, that can play out.
Hello, sir. My sir, my question is towards you regarding the UBO initiative, One Belt One Road. I would like to know how would China plan to use BRICS in helping towards the cause of UBO, and because UBO is a very complicated issue according to me, and I would like to know from your perspective how would this strategic gameplay come into play when it comes to UBO.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Papia Mondol from Political Science Department. My question to you is, do you think, ma'am, that US's energy sanction like CAATSA on Russia and Iran mainly creating any disbalances between the BRICS countries?
I think this is the last question. Last question.
Good afternoon, panelists. Sir, my question will be, in our external affairs minister yesterday only in Raisina dialogue said about multilateralism over national interest or national interest over multilateralism. How it can challenge the prospect of BRICS nations?
Okay, some very interesting questions. So the question on terrorism, I think it was also asked yesterday, and it was answered also by the panelists, but I'll again say this. So terrorism, if it is sponsored by state, then the question is relevant for BRICS. If it's from the non-state actors, then it is not, but still I will answer. So we have SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. We have this counter-terror measures that it has taken. It's called RATS. So on that line, if you see, maybe BRICS can do something like that. But also there is an issue. Shanghai Cooperation Organization, it's a regional grouping. You have, it's easier to do it. But BRICS, you have countries from all over the place, so it might be a little difficult. And question on connectivity network. So yes, I feel that it would certainly be beneficial, the expansion of BRICS and the connectivity networks. For example, we had IMEC, India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, and also if we look at our Chabahar, the connectivity project that we have with Iran. So of course, Iran's inclusion in BRICS might give a momentum to this project, and IMEC as well, because we have UAE and other countries over there. It's a highly ambitious project, but we can hope that it will lead to its benefits. And about regional conflicts and BRICS. So we have had several responses from BRICS over the regional conflicts. And Middle East has been mired with conflict since very long. So for example, if we see how did BRICS react to suppose Yemen conflict, crisis going on in Yemen. So there BRICS supports Yemen's sovereignty, independence and territorial safety. Now that the Israel-Hamas crisis is going on, so if you see how did BRICS react to that, we had the meeting of the BRICS countries and they gave their national positions on it, individual countries' positions. So as a grouping, it did not give a common position as such. And there we see that South Africa had voiced stronger criticism of Israel rather than the other countries. Other countries were mostly neutral, and India had also taken a quieter approach. And we stood by our stand on Palestinian issue of two-nation state and all that. Okay, then question on economic relations of India with UAE and Iran. Of course, we can see and maybe an upswing in the economic ties, because now that all of these three countries share this platform. But there are also other concerns to look at it. I mean, I would not say that just being on this platform would help. I mean, we do have economic ties with Iran. It's almost negligible because of the sanctions. But UAE, our ties are on very much upswing, and maybe UAE's inclusion in this grouping be helpful for our bilateral economic ties as well. And I think I have answered.
Thank you, Lakshmi Priya, for your excellent presentation. I have nothing to ask, but one question which is my personal view regarding non-alignment you are talking of. I consider non-alignment is a movement, and the growth of South is the outcome of the non-alignment movement, because where lies the strength of these newly independent countries when the Asian Relation Conference, and after that the fruits is non-alignment. Is because the strength lies in the General Assembly. And there is a lot of differences of non-alignment. Even Indira Gandhi's non-alignment policy was challenged by Janata government. But the point is that, to me, it's a platform where you can communicate. That's my viewpoint. Lot of things were discussed in the last 1.5 days. But I have one thing to know, but no one have discussed. What is the opinion of the European Union? That's a very important point. No one have mentioned the European Union because they have a common currency, they are functioning in their own way. So no, there is no discussion on European Union. What was their stand on BRICS? They have certainly certain important role to play. So these are my personal viewpoint. So with these words, I am expressing my sincere thanks to the organizer for giving me an opportunity. And I'm requesting Professor Suranjan Das and Jitendra. Jitendra, please come. And
I request you to stay on the podium, please. Please have a seat, Professor Trideep. Thank you. Thank you so much for finishing the session on time. And we are for the next schedule, but before that we will have the last protocol. I request the Dean, Honorable Professor Mani, to felicitate the guests, please. To chair of the session, Professor Trideep Chakraborty. The speaker of this panelist, Dr. Lakshmi Priya, Research Fellow, Indian Council of World Affairs, New Delhi. Professor Mani, stay back for a group photo, please. Thank you, sirs. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Could we now go to the next session? And this is a special address by one of the most eminent academics addressing the various discourses on international relations and Indian foreign policy. And he's none other than Dr. Sriram Chaulia. He is currently the Professor and Dean, Jindal School of International Relations and Director General of the Jindal India Institute of O.P. Jindal Global University, Sonipat. Dr. Chaulia is one of the most eminent social scientists and a distinguished opinion maker on international issues. He holds a doctorate and Master of Arts degree in political science and international relations from the Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs of Syracuse University, USA. And he was also the recipient of a Radhakrishnan British Chevening Scholarship at the University of Oxford, where he obtained a Bachelor of Arts degree in modern history. Professor Chaulia's areas of specialization include diplomacy, foreign policy, comparative politics, international political economy, international organizations, armed conflict, humanitarian processes, and contemporary world history. He has published extensively on these issues in prestigious national and international journals. Professor Chaulia was a contributing editor to the book People Who Influenced the World Over the Past 100 Years. His other influential publications include International Organizations and Civilian Protection, Power, Ideas, and Humanitarian Aid in Conflict Zones. Second, Politics of the Global Economic Crisis, Regulation, Responsibility, and Radicalism. Third, Modi Doctrine, the Foreign Policy of India's Prime Minister. Fourth, Trumped, Emerging Powers in a Post-American World. Next, which has already been in the headlines, the name of the book is Crunch Time, Narendra Modi's National India's Crunch Time, Narendra Modi's National India's Context, Closest Strategic Partners, Security Crisis. And we are eagerly looking forward to his forthcoming title, which is on India's Closest Strategic Partners. Professor Chaulia is also a contributor of 2 chapters to the book, which is a prescribed textbook for all students and scholars of political science and international relations, which is Handbook of India's International Relations. Professor Chaulia, we are indeed very, very grateful to you for being with us for all the 2 days of the seminar, and we are eagerly waiting your address to this session. We are also fortunate to have Shivashish as the chair of the session. Could I request Professor Chaulia and Shivashish to please come over to the dais?
Okay. Since this is a special address, so no introductory remarks of the chair is necessary, I would simply request Professor Chaulia to deliver the address.
Thank you, Chair. Namaste, everyone. It's so great to see tremendous interest among young people on international issues here in this university. Our mission as scholars and as public intellectuals in this field is to get young people involved more and more in understanding the nuances of world affairs. So I congratulate ICWA and Adamas University for putting up this fantastic, thought-provoking 2-day-long session on a topic that has come back to resonance, especially after the expansion and the addition of new members. In a way, Brics was becoming very routine and losing its, at least its high-profile visibility
and suddenly, boom, you have this new expansion, and there is renewed interest, public interest, not only here but around the world in BRICS as a result of this. So let me talk about three visions of BRICS, or three models of BRICS, and which are not necessarily incompatible with each other, but which show potential pathways about the future of BRICS. It can go in any of these directions, and I will outline what are India's preferred directions. So the first model is of BRICS as a cluster of investment hotspots. Basically, the whole idea of emerging market economies, coined by the Wall Street money managers, simply as a group of promising countries around the turn of the millennium that where you can get high return on investment. That was the whole coinage of Jim O'Neill and others. And it was not only BRICS, there were some other groupings. These are like acronyms created by the financial consultants. American financial, one was BRICS, of course, BRIC or BRICS. The other was MIST. Some of you may have heard of this: Mexico, Indonesia, South Korea, Turkey. There was also CIVETS, CIVETS, Colombia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Egypt, Turkey, and South Africa. I think it was South Korea. So there are so many of these interesting acronyms thrown around, mainly by financial consultants, to attract Western capital and direct it towards profitable destinations. So that was one conception out of BRICS, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, in the sense many of these countries that got grouped and named like this in categories in New York or elsewhere received a lot of capital and inward FDI as a result of this recognition. So the modernization and industrialization of many of these countries, including our own country, happened as a result of this identification as a investment hotspot. So no harm in being included in such groupings. And I think sometimes people overstretch the idea, is this a Western creation ultimately then? It doesn't matter. Even our nationalist movements for freedom, if you all our tallest nationalist leaders had been educated and gotten ideas of nationalism from Western countries. So it's okay. I mean, the origin of contemporary nationalism comes from these great ancestors of ours having gotten these ideas from Western educational institutions. So it's not so much about the origin, but the idea of BRICS as an investment hub, or as and other such groupings. So that's one vision or one model. The other is the one that we heard today from the diplomats from the BRICS member countries, the official representatives. They are all in unison that this is some kind of a counter-hegemonic coalition for reforming the global order, or multilateral institutions, rules, and regimes, and a kind of a collective bargaining tool to change the unfair and unjust power distribution in the world. So the most common denominator in this category, in this model, is BRICS is ushering in a multipolar world order, and its purpose is to create a multipolar world order with multiple power centers. And of course, this idea, this model is not a new idea. It's even before, much before BRICS, right from the 1970s, there have been calls from the Global South for what they used to call new international economic order, new world order, multipolar world order, and so on and so forth. The difference, of course, is that BRICS is not a grouping of the least developed countries. At least not yet. I mean, I don't know. The way the expansion is going, if they admit more and more, you may see that also. But at conception, going back 15, 20 years ago, BRICS was not a grouping of the least developed or the poorest or the weakest countries. It was supposed to be an intermediate layer between the richest ones on the top and the poorest ones at the bottom. It was supposed to be what some scholars call power south, meaning countries of the global south but which have significant regional influence and leadership or even dominance in some parts of the world. So this notion of, so the idea was that BRICS will be like some kind of a vanguard, to use a Marxist-Leninist term, on behalf of the South, but also helping themselves to enhance their own status and in a way changing the global power distribution in their favor. The third model of BRICS, and this is, I believe this is the future direction, is not so much a counter-hegemonic coalition or an investment hotspot. It is simply a forum for pragmatic cooperation. Initially, forum for pragmatic South-South cooperation, but I will problematize this because it's not necessarily true that all the BRICS member countries belong to Global South. I'll come back to that. So pragmatic cooperation, South-South multilateralism, and underneath this idea, we have come up with a lot of concrete institutions to show in the history of BRICS. There has been a lot of discussion. We have all heard about the new development bank, which is so far sanctioned 96 projects in healthcare, roads, bridges, houses, canals, agriculture, green technology, and so on, in the member countries, worth $32.8 billion of financing. So the idea of a multilateral lending institution that is not the World Bank has become a reality. And that is not led by the US or by the Europeans. It has become a reality. There's another one which is not part of BRICS, which the Chinese created, called the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB, of whom also India is a founding member. Then they have done other institutional innovations. They have the contingent reserve arrangement for managing macroeconomic crisis and balance of payment crisis among themselves. They have also floated, and it's coming up, and this is going to be a very innovative new thing that BRICS is doing, the new credit rating agency. This is meant to provide alternative information to investors who at present go by the big three American rating agencies, Moody's, Fitch, and Standard & Poor. These three are the big rating agencies that do sovereign ratings of countries. A plus, A minus, B minus, C minus. So they rank countries, and on that basis, are they credit worthy or not? Are they investment worthy or not? So global capital markets make the call based on the ratings made by American firms. And there is a shared perception among BRICS member countries that this is unfair to us. They often underestimate us, or they often highlight more of our flaws, meaning BRICS member countries, more of our macroeconomic weaknesses rather than the strengths. So we are in the process of launching this new credit rating agency that's on the cards, and that's, I think, going to be a significant achievement, because in other words, what we are saying is that the judgment of who we are need not be made by outsiders. We ourselves can present our best picture and maximize the benefits of being in the global economy. And then there's been a lot of talk about local currencies. Intra-BRICS trade has been rising in a way, although there are a lot of imbalances in it, because the Chinese, they export the most compared to everybody else, and they have a huge trade surplus with most of the BRICS member countries. Then there are other issues under this pragmatic cooperation that are emerging. I'm not going to go into all of them, except to say that this model is probably the most achievable one, because the other two, and especially the counter-hegemonic one, is becoming more and more problematic. So if you take a long horizon view of BRICS as it has emerged since 2006, there have been tremendous shifts in the world order since that time. At that time, it was fair to say that all 5 founding members can be called emerging economies or even developing countries. Today, China has already emerged. China is a great power. China is not in the intermediate layer of countries as it was about 20 years ago, right? The gap between its GDP, its military might, its geopolitical influence, and that of the rest of the BRICS member countries is quite high. And it's only India that, because of the catch-up, the late catch-up that we are having now in terms of faster GDP growth and also stronger geopolitical positioning and military modernization, it's only India that's emerging now to redress this imbalance, or what we call asymmetry within the BRICS. So China was always leading and ahead of the others in most of the power indicators within BRICS, but that gap became very pronounced, and it's today you can't call this a grouping of emerging market economies anymore because of the China factor. And China, in fact, my personal view is that China cannot even be called a developing country. Its per capita income is already $14,000. And the World Bank standard is, I think, 12,000, the threshold, after which a low income or a low middle income country becomes a middle income country. China is already a middle income country. And it's hard to see how BRICS can be called a grouping of global south, a grouping of emerging markets, especially because of the China factor. So does China belong to the global south? Question mark. Is China an emerging market economy? Question mark. Then there is another question I'd like to raise as to why this counter-hegemonic model of BRICS is not going to work. First, there is a competition for leadership of the global south among the members. And it's not new. This competition has existed even during Cold War period, and especially between China and India, it's a very intense competition. And it's only going to intensify because the power differential between the two is reducing. And those of you students who are in the international relations, you know there's something called the Thucydides trap. It's supposed to be the potential for conflict between existing hegemons and rising challengers. In the Asian theater, there is a Thucydides trap-like situation emerging between China, which is already a great power, and India, which is on its way to becoming a great power in the next 10 years or so. So there's a high potential of competition that we are already seeing manifestations of that in the form of the military tensions and the border face-off of the last 3.5 years. Now, so why do the two countries remain in BRICS even though they are rivals? This is something that should naturally occur to all of you, right? And from the Chinese point of view, they see BRICS and the utility of BRICS as a vehicle to challenge the West, and to primarily the United States, and to show the US that we are leaders and we have a huge number of countries. It's not only these 5, right? 5 have been admitted, another 30 are waiting, and if it all happens as per the Chinese plan, then they will have 40 members of BRICS, 40, right? And then they will say that, look, we've got so much collective strength, and we are completely overturning the US dominance. And their view is to utilize BRICS as a means to show the West that you are not the only game in town, and we can provide alternatives. And for us, why are we in BRICS? Is it because we also want to challenge the West? No. And I've written about this in a journal article called In Spite of the Spite, China and India in BRICS, in Global Politics Journal, arguing that India remains in BRICS as an active member because we do what I call internal balancing of China within BRICS. Internal balancing is the idea that instead of quitting BRICS or saying that no, we don't want to be part of, to do anything with the Chinese, what we do is we stay within the BRICS, and we try to keep China tied down in multilateral processes and restrain its unilateral and aggressive and expansionist tendencies. That is the beauty of plurilateral or multilateral institutions, where you are supposed to be socialized into seeing the other's point of view and moderate your own narrow nationalistic instincts. So even RIC, for that matter, the smaller trilateral Russia, India, China, which predates BRICS, we continue to remain, and you often hear that on the sidelines of some UN, GA or G20 or something, the RIC ministers also held a meeting. These things continue to happen, and it's not because we are all jointly plotting to overthrow American domination of the world. Rather, our concerns are about Chinese domination. But it's because we believe that being part of this group helps to soften the Chinese to some extent. And they have parallelly, the BRICS is not the only means for the Chinese to spread the influence. They have their own unilateral initiative, like the Belt and Road Initiative, the BRI. And we have not joined that because we understand that it's a completely unilateral Chinese thing for hegemony. So, in a sense, we are doing counter-hegemony, but it's not the counter-hegemony that the Chinese talk about. For us, counter-hegemony, the reference point is our northern neighbor. It's not the United States. Especially in the Asian theater. Of course, there are unfair and unjust aspects in trade negotiations, in climate, in many other forums where we may find some common cause occasionally with the Chinese or with other developing countries, and we continue to advance those causes. And in many cases, the voting coincidence between the US and India is not so high in the Security Council or in the General Assembly. So that is there, and we will continue to advocate for a fairer distribution of resources and franchise in the world among more voices. So, but what we are doing is internal balancing. That's my view. And even with the expansion process, the politics of the expansion, that only we are privy to only some of the behind closed doors debates that went on before they announced this list of 6 new countries. It was a very hard fought diplomatic tussle involving all the member countries, their allies, and each of them, ultimately what we got was some kind of a balancing act between the competing interests of different BRICS member countries. So it was a compromise, as always, in these kind of settings. But the tussle is there, and it's about this model. Which model of BRICS do you want? Do you want it to be simply an attractive place for trade and investment? Do you want it to be a counter-hegemonic coalition, or do you want it to be a forum for pragmatic cooperation? These 3 models, it's going to be decided by this expansion process in many ways, because the makeup of the members will change the orientation of the organization or the institution. So I think the representatives who are here today were all saying that the expansion is a proof of the success of BRICS. But then you may have heard some voices of caution about efficiency, about functionality, and what was unsaid, the elephant in the room, is also about which country will get to have a greater influence as a result of the expansion. So I'm presenting a more realpolitik-based approach to this, not a purely liberal understanding that, okay, we all have to work together. It's much more complex, and the interplay of interests and values is very much there. National interests, core national interests are at stake here. So we are going to remain in BRICS, and we are going to try to shape it in a direction as per our preferences. We do not want a situation where there's a gang up of, let's say, 15 or 20 countries, and then they go for majority-based voting. Right now, it is on consensus basis, meaning all 5 countries have to agree for anything to happen. But if the membership explodes into 30 or 40 members, as the Chinese want, then you may have a situation where they say, okay, we cannot get stuck in disagreements, we'll have majority voting. And then it will become like a General Assembly type of a game of numbers. Which country can assemble more? Who's doing the agenda setting? Who's bringing the new idea or the new proposal and mobilizing people behind that idea to get the majority votes? So we don't want a situation where BRICS gets hijacked like that, and nor are we, as has been mentioned many times, interested in BRICS being used simply to counter Western positions on each and everything. So I think our preference is for it to be this pragmatic cooperation vehicle. We receive some benefits, concrete benefits. Many of these 96 projects that have been assigned by the NDB, for example, are happening in India. Connectivity, roads, and such things. So there are concrete benefits, and I would not say earth-shattering benefits, but there are decent concrete benefits. So we'll remain part of BRICS for all these reasons. But my view is primarily we do internal balancing, and that's why we're going to remain steadfastly committed to this BRICS. At the geostrategic level, it's important for us to stay here, because if we are not there, or if we don't actively lobby behind the scenes to maintain a certain balance of forces within BRICS, then it could become inimical to our interests, or it could even marginalize us. So therefore, I think it's our supreme national interest to make sure that the BRICS remain with a certain configuration of forces within BRICS remains. And I think we are not going to agree to a kind of a pell-mell expansion, which can then lead to a situation where, let's say, 20 or 25 countries are all indebted to China in a very deep way through bilateral loans or through BRI, and therefore they will simply be like a chorus to sign on to whatever the Chinese propose. The initial approach of BRICS in the pre-Xi Jinping era was the Chinese were much more consultative and were willing to seek consensus building based on equality of all the member states, equal contributions, equal voice, equal voting, equal share capital, and so on. But there is a very high chance of asymmetry being exploited by the Chinese if we do not stop it. My view is India is standing very firm in BRICS, and India will have its own set of followers within BRICS in this expanded membership. And India is going to ensure that our vision for reformed multilateralism is reflected in BRICS. We are not going to be just mute bystanders and let this organization be shipwrecked or hijacked. So let me conclude by saying that I think we were more idealistic about BRICS. I was more idealistic. When I read my own publications of 10, 15 years ago, I used to sound very, very enthusiastic and idealistic about BRICS as reshaping the world order. Because at least until 2015 or so, our view was that there was only a sole superpower in the world, and that we need institutional means and mechanisms to contain or restrain this sole superpower. Now, with this bipolar, the so-called equal distribution of power, or relatively equal distribution between China and the US, it's more variegated. The field is more variegated. So we don't, I think, any longer see BRICS through a very, very idealistic or let me say as a very moralistic force that will bring about some grand transformation in the world order. I think we are realistic about how much it can achieve, and what we need to do to make sure that this simple pragmatic cooperation can continue. It's not in my view, is not going to be a very decisive institution for this new world order per se. I don't see it in those lenses. I'd rather like to see what we can get from it as a country with pragmatic interests, and in the process, how we can maintain a favorable balance of power in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Chaulia, for what I thought was a very balanced and a very thoughtful, excellent presentation. Okay, so I never look at the task of the chair to summarize a presentation, and Professor Chaulia, in fact, was, I think, both profound and lucid in equal measures. Okay, I mean, so therefore, but I would just draw your attention to the fact that, he talks about these three possible models of BRICS. One is that it can be understood as a forum for investment, but we can also look at it as a kind of an institution through which a new power balance might possibly be fashioned. And finally, his preferred understanding, which is also, in a way, I think the preferred understanding of many, would be to look at it as some kind of a theater for pragmatic, dialogic, let's say, conscientious building. And he's also drawn attention to a few very critically important things. One is that there is this fundamental asymmetry in the organization between China on one hand and the other members on the other. And he's also worked through some of the implications of it, saying very clearly that the reason why China is in the BRICS is not the reason why India, in fact, is in the BRICS. So there is this fundamental dichotomy. And I think if we have sort of followed the way that he began, there was this very significant comment that he made, which is that let us not judge the legitimacy of an organization by the source of ideas. Okay, I mean, so many of the ideas, in fact, might have began in the West, they have traveled. And so therefore the legitimacy or the rightness of the idea is definitely not the geographical location of it. So we can have some, maybe about 10 minutes of questions and answers before the next online session begins. And as the Honorable Vice Chancellor, in fact, has highlighted, our guest who is online can also join, because we're broadly sort of discussing, the ideas that revolve around BRICS. So questions, students, I thought this was a very interesting presentation. So, if you have questions, please go ahead.
Mr. Ravi, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Yeah, thank you. I mean, Mr. Chaulia has made an excellent presentation. We're in the midst of discussions. You can also join. And then we can go straight to your session. Is that okay? Yeah, thanks.
Okay, questions?
Well, then can I break the ice? Okay, once again, thank you, Dr. Chaulia, for this wonderful presentation, which has taken our seminar to new heights. And I do appreciate your preference for what you call looking BRICS as a pragmatic cooperation vehicle. And I think that is the way to go ahead. And within that, you had listed one or two very important segments which can make BRICS a very pragmatic cooperation vehicle. Now, you had rightly mentioned that BRICS can be used as a new credit rating agency. Now, similarly, I was wondering if we can extend that and include poverty measurement as yet another alternative, BRICS becoming an alternative rating agency, because India is very rightly is questioning some of the poverty measurement indices that are emanating from the West. So that was one suggestion that I wanted to make. The second is about, you rightly mentioned that BRICS could be used as a forum for or an instrument for boosting intra-regional trade within BRICS. Now, if we want to do that, do you think the idea of free trade regime could be a good idea of enhancing this intra-regional trade within BRICS? Now, that again perhaps brings me to the other point about the competition of leadership within BRICS. Now, if that competition persists, particularly in the context of India-China, whether that competitive leadership within BRICS can act as an impediment for intra-regional BRICS trade, and also as an impediment to the idea of a free trade regime within BRICS.
Good afternoon, sir. So you really explained about the economic factor very well. I just need to add one more part to sir's question. So I'm Gaurav from Sociology Department. I just need to add one more factor to sir's question. Sir, BRICS being a part in trading, it has also flourished in terms of economic establishments as like carbon trading, solar investments. Sir, would you elaborate in that factor too?
Else? Yes.
Good morning, sir. I am Rishabh Kumar. I am a second year student of history. And my question is regarding what you would like to offer as a solution regarding the imbalance that is there in among the members of the BRICS, because we all know, as you also mentioned, that some members are more influential and want to turn tables on their own favor. So what would you like to offer as a solution? Thank you, sir.
Okay, new poverty measurement index. Mr. Damuravi is here. You know, he's one of our key diplomats in the BRICS processes. I'm pretty sure there are many such alternative ratings and measurement and indices that have been considered by BRICS countries based on the what we consider to be unfair judgments being made about us. So this is probably one more that we can be added. Yes, there is a policy around these measurement indices, and we have been resentful of some of these Western punditry and think tanks which are ranking us. Even our democracy, some of them are claiming that India is not fully free. There are some Western agencies claiming that civil and political rights in India have declined and that we are only partially free now, and that earlier we were fully free. So there are a lot of problems with what these people are saying, and some have been claiming hunger is increasing in India. You know, a lot of these are flawed measures and they need to be challenged. So indices, yes, we have to fight at that level so that there is another benchmark. There's not only one benchmark, but there is a plurality of benchmarks, and let people decide, let investors decide based on which one is accurate. Trade and is bilateral competition going to impact it? Definitely. Look, if the imbalances are very high, for example, if you have a massive trade deficit with China, which is a problem, right? And that is being counted under intra-BRICS trade. It's just a measure. It doesn't mean that all BRICS countries are jointly sitting together and trading among themselves. When we say intra-BRICS trade, it's simply an economic figure adding up all the volumes of bilateral trades among member countries. Okay, so it may look like a very high figure, but then the deficits are of great concern, and we will have to take strategic steps to preserve our industrial capacities and our Make in India objectives. We don't want to be swamped. In fact, that's why we did not join the RCEP agreement. Those of you who followed the trade negotiations, because there also there was a fear of being dumped with the Chinese products. So I think there is a problem with that, and sometimes it's a very superficial thing to say that intra-BRICS trade is increasing, it's increasing, and we are doing great. But let's see who's benefiting more and who's benefiting less. That's why I said we need a more realpolitik way of looking at it. Solar and carbon trading, yeah, you know, one of the successes of the NDB has been this focus on alternative energy and green and clean technology. And even the Western ones now, the World Bank, all of them, Asian Development Bank led by Japan, all of them have moved in this direction of what they call ECG, you know, in investing. It's a common term, which is to look at these social indicators when deciding where to place money and to help usher in carbon neutral future. So those things are good, and I think these are like low hanging fruit in a way, but if a multilateral bank is setting that as a standard, then it sends a message for private players also that, we should not support coal-based power plants and new projects that will lead to higher pollution levels and such things. Solution to the asymmetry. I think that is the ultimate question. I think India is the solution. Let me put it this way. India is the solution to the asymmetry in BRICS. Because like I said, we are growing very fast. So in 10 years, at the current rates of growth, we are going to be not 1/4 the size of the Chinese economy. We will be less than 1/2 the size of or more than 1/2 the size of the Chinese economy at the current rates of relative growth. So and then in 15 or 20 years, we may be equal of China and the United States. You must have heard our Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal saying that we are going to be a $40 trillion economy by the time of the centenary, when the Amrit Kal finishes in 2047. So I think we are going to be the balancer. And that's why we are optimistic about our role there. If the trends were going the other way and the gap would keep on increasing, then there's a real danger of us being completely marginalized in BRICS. Because these new member countries that are coming in are not only going to be looking up to China for more money and for more loans and more investment, they're going to be looking up to us as well, on a bilateral basis as well. So that goodwill or that expectation about India will carry into BRICS also, in voting, in decision making, in agenda setting and all these things. So the asymmetry, I think, is going to be controlled because of the rise of India as a structural game changer in this multilateral. And not only in BRICS, you will see that across in all fora. We are very creative and innovative in our diplomacy today in multilateral fora, and we are consensus builders, and we've been very successful. Those of you who watched my recent TV show with Dr. Jaishankar on Doordarshan on Indian diplomacy, we spoke a lot about why Bharat matters and why Bharat is able to do these extraordinary things today. But fast forward to another 10, 20 years. We will have more economic muscle, more military muscle, and then when we do the creative diplomacy, it will be of a different magnitude altogether. Right now, we are still compensating for our relative material backwardness or weakness through creative diplomacy and through innovation and through personal leadership of the Prime Minister. All those things matter. But the structural factors in terms of reducing asymmetries and imbalances is going to come with India's rise. Our best is ahead of us. So that's why we are waiting for this Amrit Kal. Thank you.
So thank you very much on that positive note that, we become stronger, we become more meaningful, we become better. I just add that not only do we become better, but BRICS as an organization would also flourish in the same direction. So I bring this session to the close, and possibly, the last protocol that in fact is awaited, and then we can move on to the online session that all of us are doing.
Thank you, Professor Shibashish and Professor Chulia. I request Professor Shavik Roy, Professor and Associate Dean, School of Law and Justice, to felicitate the guest. The chair of the session, Professor Subhashish Chatterjee. It's fine, but this is day 2. Chair of the session, Professor Subhashish Chatterjee. And next is Professor, just 1 minute, sir, just for the photo op. Professor Sriram Chulia, Professor and Dean, Jindal School of International Affairs and Director General of Jindal India Institute at OP Jindal Global University, Sonipat. I request all the panelists for a group photo, please. Vice Chancellor, please come on this. Pro Vice Chancellor, please come on this. Please. Thank you so much. Thank you, sirs. Thank you.
Thank you. We now come to the last session of the two-day seminar, and this is a special address by Mr. Dammu Ravi. And we are extremely grateful that despite the busy schedule in the context of the Raisina Dialogue, Mr. Ravi has been able to take some time off and be with us today, although online. We would have appreciated his physical presence, but even an online special address by Mr. Ravi takes the seminar to new heights. Mr. Dammu Ravi joined the Indian Foreign Service in 1989, and he has served Indian missions abroad, among others in Mexico, Cuba, Brussels, in various capacities. He was also the part of Indian delegation to WTO Ministerial Conference in Nairobi in November 2015, and in Buenos Aires in December 2017. He has also effectively handled India's trade and investment relations with regional groups. Currently, he is Secretary Economic Relations in Ministry of External Affairs. He holds a master's degree in political science from Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi, and he has published a number of research papers and trade matters. Mr. Ravi, we are extremely once again grateful to you. Could we now have your special address, sir?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for this great honor and privilege. And I also like to particularly thank Professor Suranjan Das for actually encouraging me and actually pushing me into this to this event. Although I must apologize that I could not be physically present because of the Raisina Dialogue and I had my own commitments. But Ambassador Raju Bhatia also encouraged me to come online at least to be able to give my perspective as a Sherpa of the Brics. And I also know that the very distinguished participants in the last 2 days have given a very vibrant ideas. I see also here former Foreign Secretary Ambassador Krishnan Srinivasan, a lot of academicians, professors, scholars, and just now I was listening a bit of it of Dr. Sriram Chaulia, and academicians, industry representatives. That's also very interesting combination here. Industry representations also wanting to understand about the BRICS opportunities, and then the students of the university at all. I thank the Adamas University for giving me this opportunity to be talking on this important subject. I also know our own the Indian Council of World Affairs also has been supportive of this event. And so let me begin my talk. I know experts have already touched on the very details of several aspects of the BRICS. And I also know that the Ambassador Brazil is also participating. The Ambassador Kenneth is a good friend, and also the Consul Generals of the BRICS countries are also there. I know a lot of ideas might have come up, have been discussed. And what is the beauty about such is that this kind of debates and discussions are not confined to Delhi. And that way, Adamas University taking the lead in generating ideas, dialogue in another part of India is even more interesting and encouraging. And MEA and Ministry of External Affairs would be very happy to support such initiatives in the future. So let me start BRICS, the way I understand it, I see it, somewhat slightly deviating from the official position, but I'll be very honest and frank to share my thoughts here. First of all, I think the BRICS as conceived by the Goldman Sachs in 2001, the acronym BRIC, and their own understanding of the growth of BRIC and its own evolution on the global stage has come true. It's more than 2 decades that we are seeing BRICS in action. Today, the numbers also speak for itself, one of which is the GDP numbers. In the PPP terms, we are the largest. It's overtaken the G7. That's an interesting development there. In population terms, it's 40% of the world population it actually belongs to this part of the world. And there are a lot more economic activity that's happening in most of the BRICS countries. So that's also driving the global growth in a significant way. So those predictions have more or less come true. Now we have to see the future. So in 2001, when BRICS was formed, the founding members were 4. And the first expansion took place in 2011 with South Africa coming in. And thereafter, it's almost more than 10 years. So last year was when another expansion took place. So I want to, rather than into details, I just want to get into the evolution of the BRICS and its impact on the global stage, and what the future holds for BRICS, and how do we navigate these challenges ahead for us. So today, with the second expansion of during the Johannesburg summit of South Africa, now 11 countries, but I think Argentina has declined, so it's 10, and we still have to see Saudi Arabia formally conveying its intention. So we will say 10 for the record, but we have countries who are lined up to become members of the BRICS, wanting to be members of BRICS family. So it's an interesting development. Something has gone wrong, right in the BRICS, that other countries are seeking to be members there. So that's, from their perspective, it's a body that is delivering. It is able to provide answers to their own problems. And in my view, there is also aspirational countries. The world is increasingly becoming aspirational. The globalization, the information, people understand, the countries understand the importance of being part of a group, a dynamic group, not only as their own voices, to make the voices more louder, but I think also to benefit from it. I think that's a very strong factor, a pull factor into this, into the BRICS group. So, well, India was a bit wary initially, but then we realized that the nations, by naturally aspirational feelings, would actually seek them to be part of the BRICS. So we felt that the democratization of BRICS would bring in new dynamism, and it will add strength to the BRICS. So in a way, we are still looking at a group that was originally conceived to be an emerging nations. That character in future might undergo a change. That I think we need to recognize that. But we also have to understand that new countries, new members will bring in new dynamism, new diversity. So there are lots of positivities about it. And the last meeting of the Sherpas in Moscow, which I attended, I realized that countries are becoming increasingly interested. They have just being put forward, of course, coming from their own regions, from their own economic and geopolitical situations. They articulate their viewpoints. So that's very natural, I guess. Now, whether the larger BRICS family, larger groups will strengthen, I remain positive that a greater number will be good for it, because you're able to leverage each other's strength for a common objective. But we also have to be wary of the fact that expansion at a very short time can also be a debilitating factor that may weaken the country. Both in terms of the numbers and the debate, the quality of debate that may take place may reduce, and the numbers may also, too much of expansion too fast can also make too many internal contradictions and actually pull it down. So that is a danger to that. So, so we'll have to weigh this both pros and cons, and to what extent we can allow the evolution further, what extent that engagement can be kept to a required level. So that, I think, in future these issues will come up. But for the time being, even the new members feel that they have to first assimilate what has happened within the BRICS, and then understand, take their own time before even admitting or bringing in new members. So that's generally the current thinking of the new members. So we'll have to see how we will navigate this challenge in the days ahead. Now, clearly, there are challenges to the way this group will evolve. Of course, the positives apart from the negatives part of it, in my view, it should not become and should not be seen as an anti-West group. And that path will be not a desirable path. And it should also not be seen as a rival to G20. And we also need to ensure that this group doesn't become a center of its own sphere of influence in the current geopolitical tensions that are taking place. So more often you will see the agenda of the geopolitical issues coming into the center stage of this dialogue in the Brics. So there is a danger of those kind of themes and ideas coming in, and that might, in fact, reduce the solidarity of the group and create more divisions within the group. So we'll have to be careful about those tendencies creeping into Brics. One of the positivities, and which has been again highlighted in Dr. Sriram's Chalya's thing, is the economic factor. I think clearly the new development bank will be a very interesting body, financial institution for many of the developing countries. And that's why this large number that is wanting to be member, that could be one particular reason. And why? Because the MDBs, the multilateral development banks, seem to have not delivered, or there are too many conditionalities that are attached to providing assistance, financial assistance for countries in their own economic growth and development needs. So that way, NDB seemed to have delivered quite well. It has undertaken about 103 projects with the capital infusion of about $30 billion. And the disbursement has been very smooth so far. So that's clearly an attraction. And I see these new members wanting to be NDB members, although this is not automatic. The new members not necessarily automatically become members of the NDB. That's also a decision by consensus. So this will need in the days to come. So, and now in the Johannesburg Summit Declaration, the leaders have again come out with the idea of new currency. Now, new currency to be used in their trade, in their investment, in their economic activities among the big members is an idea which will be deliberated under a task force. And then that will come out with recommendations to the leaders to accept. So, but there is clearly a thinking that a large number of members in the BRICS group want to have less dependency on the hard currency today, given the global uncertainties, economic crisis, debt crisis, the currency financial crisis in the world. So this is a thinking, and that is driven by Brazil. President Lula is very keen that we quickly get this act together on the new currency. So we'll have to see the recommendation to the task force, what they will say. So this is one aspect of it. Now, I would like to also emphasize on what India's role can be in the BRICS. So in my view, clearly India has a balancing role between the North-South and the East-West. And that's always been the tradition of our diplomacy. We've always maintained that we need to play that role and calibrate that role very carefully. It's a perfect balancing act, but we will not be able to maintain that for a long, because you have different spheres of influences developing within. So India will have to carefully navigate that space. So, but at the objective here for the collective members and also for India is, how can BRICS be a tool to strengthen the multipolarity concept? So this is important, and I think that's again a very clear objective of our foreign policy, that we need to use platforms or the groups like the BRICS to enhance the multipolarity. Reasons that I see why BRICS is becoming increasingly important is not only that nations want to express their voices through institutions like this and dynamic bodies like this, but there is also the other side of it, the other picture of this is actually the failure of multilateral institutions. So today, many clearly understand and know that they say it as much, that the UN systems have failed. It's somewhat archaic. It doesn't reflect the current contemporary realities times. The multilateral financial institutions too suffer from the same kind of thinking, where they say that we have reform has not happened, and so it's not able to deliver for a large number of countries, developing countries of this world. So clearly, what BRICS can do in the days to come is to focus on economic cooperation. So bilateral issues should be avoided to coming to the center stage of the agenda, and also geopolitical tension should be avoided. So the focus on economic cooperation is very important. It has to form the center stage of the BRICS agenda. Investments, trade, infrastructure, food security, energy security. I think these are all extremely important. We talked about the Russian presidency when it took over on 1st January. They have a very clear agenda on the how to build this economic cooperations. That's been originally their idea. Now they want to build on that understanding that countries should be able to undertake projects collectively together. Joint collaborations is what is the focus now. We are confident that the Russian presidency will do a lot. They're hardworking. They have a lot of experience. Already 250 meetings have been scheduled for throughout the year for the ministerial working groups and the Sherpas level, and then they will have the summit in October. So we will work with our Russian friends to ensure that they will have a successful summit. In the current times, we have to clearly understand that the world is going through crisis, both on the political side, but I think there is a repercussion of the political instabilities and tensions on the economic agenda. So the economic impact of countries is even more worse. Today, there is a food security problem. Countries wanting to buy food from anywhere that they could get. So there's a disruption of the supply chains, this not just in the goods, merchandise exports, but also in the food, the food chain. Food security is getting disrupted in many pockets of the world. Okay. Second is the debt crisis. The indebtedness of nations have grown, have increased to an extent that today there is no hard currency for them to pay even the IMF loans that they borrowed. So how do we address that challenge? And the BRICS will have to think through this issue, which is why the currency issue is coming to the center stage of the debate. The third is the energy crisis. Now, many of the BRICS countries, including now with the new members even more, that they have a huge resource of the fossil fuel energy sources. So that's a big asset that the BRICS countries have. So, but then how do you also at the same time take this debate of the climate change, the energy transition issues? Those things would need to be at the same time discussed. Now, if countries in the BRICS, what is the danger I see? The countries in the BRICS bring the political agenda, as I mentioned, can be, there's a risk to the BRICS being able to move forward. And also economic competition. Now, in times of crisis, typically nations will become nationalistic and there will be competition on the economic scale. So that can also jeopardize the agenda of the BRICS. On the positive side, I would like to emphasize what India can do. We've been traditionally dealing with many of our bilateral countries through the capacity building program. ITEC is a very clear example that we've reached out to many countries around the world. That's our strength. The Indian Technical Economic Cooperation Program. About 500,000 experts have been trained, and that continues to be our forte. And we will help countries in the capacity building. But I believe the time has come for us to do projects together. Again, India is both a recipient and also donor. We have committed through the development partnership assistance about $32 billion to projects South Asia and Africa. And that 300 of them have been successfully completed and 300 more are ongoing. So that's a record of India as a donor is also very strong. And I'm beginning to feel that, the answer is not in donations. The answer is actually in doing collaborative projects along with the BRICS countries in outside of the BRICS arena. It's not just within BRICS, but also outside of the BRICS arena. For example, Africa, Latin America, Central Asia, a huge scope and possibility for doing collaborative projects wherever it's possible and wherever the rules of the game, the investment are welcoming, it should be possible. IPSA has been a very classic example where 3 countries, India, Brazil, and South Africa, have been able to successfully conclude projects in the third countries. So that record is a very encouraging record, and they've been very well appreciated by many countries. But these are high impact, low income, high impact. Been very well received. But I think that encourages us to take up large-scale projects in other countries, particularly in the global south. Another aspect where India needs to focus is actually narrative building, because most of the development ideas, or even the parameters of development measures and standards that benchmarking is coming from the Western-centric ideas. It's not from a developing perspective and a developing perspective. So this narrative building is important through the BRICS. Again, India can take lead in this. One of which on the environment, I see life concept, because you can't talk about climate change only from the point of view of emissions, but it's important equally to talk about lifestyle for environment. So that's is where we have to bring in. That is, you need to also work on your own consumption patterns and behavioral patterns to able to manage climate change challenges in the days ahead. So that's interesting. Women-led development, in an office we can drive, idea we can drive within this. A lot has been said about the trade. It's not just so much about intra-BRICS trade, but I believe in today's world, the supply chains are so complex that we should be thinking in terms of using each other's strengths, the supply chains, and be able to deliver more competitive, cost-effective products to the world. And that should be possible because most BRICS countries have that enormous strength that to be able to integrate and take advantage of each strengths and develop products for the world. Now, trade as a number, trade can never be balanced. You can never have a balanced trade between 2 nations. It's so many factors. And also the numbers don't give a true picture. The true integration of the economies are beyond numbers, actually. So we need to be very clear as to how the trade as a concept and understanding where actually is beyond numbers. It is integration of the economies. It is even more useful, encouraging. So there is investment, there are jobs, those elements, the technology, the services, all these things are integrated into that. Now, what India can do furthermore within using the BRICS as a platform, in my view, is immediately I think we need to address the food hunger challenges around the world, particularly in Africa. The food production in Africa will fail not because it doesn't have enough fertile lands or water. It's because the entrepreneurship perhaps is missing or the skills are missing. So that's where India and countries within BRICS can come together to produce food grains in that soil, in that land, and enable countries in Africa, in the global south, to meet their food security challenges. Energy transition phase, again, I see a great opportunity. India has shown the way. The solar energy plants in gigawatt scale we've been successfully able to implement in India. And we have an ambitious target of 400 gigawatts. But these models can be replicated outside of India and help nations which are dependent today on fossil fuels to transition to a more clean energy, a more renewable source energy. For that, of course, the debate will also have to touch upon the commercialization, cross-border trading of energy. That's another part of it. But these models can be done. in any part of the world. But again, the entrepreneurship should be geared towards to thinking outside of India. DPI, the digital public infrastructure. India has clearly shown the way in bringing in efficiency, transparency, and actually empowering common man. And the DPI, the digital public infrastructure, also extends to not just Aadhaar, but also the fintech solutions. It's low-cost solutions which can be, again, introduced in the global south. Brics can be a platform under which this can be undertaken. So many of this, of course, you will say, is not easy to implement unless you have finances. But there again, we have to think very innovatively. We should be looking at blended financing, combining each other's strengths in finance, and look at the risk mitigation. Access to capital should be much easier. It's not that impossible, but I think there are enough money and funds available in the world in the form of pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, but this needs to be tapped. And that requires innovative thinking and risk mitigation and investments being had. So these are my thoughts. And I see clearly that the BRICS has great future. We should not be in competition with any group, but we should have an agenda clearly with the economic as its central to its agenda, focus on the economic projects, and if you are able to achieve that, then I see a great future for the BRICS to do even greater activities. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ravi, for that wonderful statement. You have covered a considerable ground so far as not only BRICS expansion, but also India's role in it. I think we have time for one or two questions. So would you be, are you prepared to take some of those questions? Mr. Ravi, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay.
Sure.
Is there any questions from our students? Please. Okay. Please.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Prachitosh Roy, second year student of history. And my question to you is that since BRICS is formed in the year 2006, there has to be a time in which the developing countries actually thought that they should join hands. So from which time that is before the coming of the 2000s, or even before that they thought that these developing countries which are formed should start joining hands in order to tackle the problems and challenge the USA and Western Europe.
Okay. I think our head of the Department of Politics, you raised the hand? Yes, please.
Good afternoon, sir. This is just a small inquiry on my part. Very recently, India has enabled cross-border digital payment as we found the introduction of UPI and RuPay card payments in Sri Lanka and Mauritius. So keeping in mind the hub and spoke development policy as Sushma Swaraj had spoken of long time back, in contrast to the checkbook diplomacy of China, is there any scope for India to do the same in the BRICS conglomerate? Thank you.
Any other question from the floor? Please.
Good afternoon, sir. My question is, I'm trying to repeat a question I kind of gave a few minutes back. It's about how difficult it is to deal with China, and how cautious we are in the way BRICS can become or might just become if China gets a lot of influence. So I would like to know how the One Belt, One Road initiative will be influenced by China if it manages to get more members, and the situations that it might appear. Thanks.
Any other question? Please.
Thank you, sir. This is Jitendra from Political Science Department. I'm an assistant professor. So the question is that we are talking about so many parallel organizations like Quad is there, BRICS is there, SCO is there. But formation of such organization, is it moving from the old organizations to new organizations, and we are not seeing any conclusion in forms of the benefit which it can create? Like lots of mistrust is still there, but some of the students have also raised the same question, and in the previous sessions we had such notifications regarding the same mistrust issue. Like if I say today on the podium we have representative from China Council and we have representative from India and what you call Russia. But the question of like if I talk about the strategic issues of string of pearls or the diamond necklace, so the issue remains the same. So my question is that how we can mitigate that mistrust or the trust issues between the members of the BRICS itself. Thank you.
Any other question? Please.
After 10 to 20 years, how BRICS will help to the citizens of India, how it will be helpful to us. Thank you.
Okay, you didn't introduce yourself.
I am Priyoshni Bandyopadhyay from BPL LPS
Okay, thank you. Any other question?
I didn't get the question.
Sorry, could you just repeat?
How BRICS will be helpful to the citizens of India? And how it will provide us with how means the security and all the facilities.
Okay, next one.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Ashwani Kumar Nayak from Master in Computer Applications, and my question is from global governance. What are the global governance implications of BRICS initiatives? There are disparities in international decisions making and influence among the member nations. If there is a disparities, then what solution will BRICS find for it in future?
Last question. Anyone? Well, Mr. Ravi, if there is no other question, could I ask one question? This is in continuation to the point that was raised by one of our students as how the Indian citizens would benefit from BRICS. Now, as I see it, still now, our BRICS has been largely been driven by what I would call investment-oriented and capital-oriented growth. Of course, it's important, given the nature of the formation of BRICS. But I think in the coming years, shouldn't we also think of enhancing the BRICS cooperation by bringing in the civil societies across the nations, so that there could be more civil society interactions and our cooperation extends to the realms of education, culture, health is there, and so that we can also think of our general development at the level of the citizens, so that the citizens of the countries involving the BRICS can become conscious of how BRICS can be a living reality. I am particularly reminded of the way in which the European Union is working. European Union initially worked on capital development approach. But now, if you see, European Union is trying to bring in the universities, the academics, the various components of the civil societies to develop a holistic oriented approach, so that the countries within the European Union can accrue benefits from the investment and the capital oriented approach. So that was my point.
Well, thank you, Professor Das. A lot of questions here. I know it's also makes me feel that, there's been fair amount of attention to what I said. But I'm not able to give answer accurately to every question, but I'll try to give an overview and summarize each one a little bit. What I understood from the students and professors is, well, UPI, I'll take the first one, the UPI cross-border fintech. And so I think clearly this is India has taken the lead and very useful within the BRICS family members to introduce. And I see great interest amongst the countries. The last visit to Moscow at the Sherpa level, already many countries are talking about the fintech solutions for their own transactions. And they see India is a great example. They're encouraged by what's happening in India, and they want us to help them to introduce this. So as you know that India has already developed this mechanism, introduced this mechanism bilaterally with many countries. Singapore, now UAE, France also has come in. So the more we do it, it's better because it has the advantage of a faster transaction facility, and it doesn't require any hard currency. So countries are seeing the benefit and they see clearly a value to it. So this is an idea we will be taking forward in the BRICS from India's point of view and India's agenda. We will be building on that. So China factor and the BRI influence, let me be here because every country has a strength. Now, BRI is both its own as a connectivity in a concept-wise, it's a very good thing. But I think we also have to recognize what BRI is doing to other nations. So now the indebtedness it's enhancing is an issue that China will have to address at some stage, and also the territorial integrity and sovereign rights of nations. Trespassing that. I think those have to be also addressed. So there are lots of challenges for the BRIs ahead. It looks very nice, when you say connectivity, but below that there is a deep down feeling amongst countries that it is causing even more economic distress for them. So I think that requires a larger debate. We'll say it's another one. But I don't think we should be comparing between what China is doing and China's influence is growing. Every country has its own strength. Let me say, even all member countries have their own strength, which they can bring to the table, and they can strengthen the BRICS process. I mean, we cannot really compare exactly the strengths of each country, but there are differences. The diversity of the nations in BRICS is a very interesting aspect, and that will strengthen. So, as I said, we have our own strength in capacity building, education, digital infrastructure, the solar, and we have the advantage of our own diaspora in many of those countries to take forward India's own agenda, India's own ideas. So many organizations, proliferation of organizations, is it good or not? But I think it's natural. As I say, the aspirational nations will naturally want to enhance the voice through groups. And the group dynamics in geopolitics on the global stage is increasingly becoming important. In a globalized world, small nations will find it more useful to articulate through group dynamics. And I don't see any problem there. The only problem that why a group can be weak or stronger depends upon how the entire membership addresses those contradictions. So if you bring the political agenda into the group, the bilateral issues into the group, contentious issues into the group, then that will slow down. It will not be able to eat. So the more mistrust it will bring in. So if you see the success of any group, and the successful groups have this minimum contradictions in them, to navigate that contradictions very well. So the membership, it's purely members have to understand, and it's incumbent upon each member to ensure that they don't bring the bilateral issues and the more contentious issues onto the agenda. So the trust and the trust deficit issues can be addressed through the members alone. Security from the BRICS, yes. I think in my view, the very fact that countries are talking to each other itself is a good thing. And don't expect that we will have conclusions, convergence in one round or one summit. It will not happen. Leaders are meeting regularly. The fact that the Sherpas are meeting, the working groups are meeting regularly, they're discussing in a diverse group like Brics or any other group, this kind of debate, discussion, and somewhat delayed success is a very natural thing. I mean, look at the G20. G20 too is a more diverse, is a very diverse group, but still there's a healthy debate. Because as I said, the view of the West, the developed countries' perspectives are very different. Not that they want to undermine the agenda of the developing world, but their understanding is different. So it's only now the global South and the developing countries are asserting. So they're bringing forward their understanding of the issues, and this is leading to a healthy debate. And such debate, we should not think is negative, but over a period of time, when people talk, you will see a greater convergence and a greater tolerance to those difficult issues. So global governance issues and what are the solutions? Well, as I said, the UN, of course, is a large body where all the members are represented in it. But if it doesn't dynamically evolve in tune with the current times, it will have its own problems. And that's exactly what we are seeing today, that the UN being representative of the world body is still not able to deliver it. So there is a global governance issues. Countries will not take those resolutions seriously. But nevertheless, in my view, this groups like Brics and the platforms like Brics, even SCO, are important in their own way, because they're also developing and building the narrative and slowly and putting it forward. So it's two-way round. So the reform can also happen through an outside pressure point. So if reform doesn't happen from within it, then the pressure can build from outside. So we have to think this is a very natural process. So India's own citizens, how they can benefit more? I think within the Brics, from a three-pillar agenda item, it has moved to multi-faceted agenda. So today the items on the agenda are across the criteria or the themes. So including on the science and technology, education, civil society, that agenda has grown. And it is every presidency and every chair and every country that holds the presidency, they are bringing in even new items. Look at what we did during our presidency of the Brics. We added innovation, we added the startup working group, and we also added the young scientists interactions. And there is also a civil society. Is a very important item within the Brics. Their discussions are happening at the working level, working group level and a ministerial level. But we have to understand that we should not use these forums to drive a particular agenda or to bring a sensitive item and cause disruption or cause embarrassment for members. I think Brics that way has a very healthy way of building consensus on themes that can be brought for discussion. It's a consensus-based decision making within Brics. Both on the agenda as well as the conclusions are a consensus-based. So sometimes you need to be cautious that these extraneous elements, some of those ideas or themes are not introduced to cause you embarrassment or cause you a difficult situation to respond to. I think, well, in my view, the Brics will evolve to be a strong group. And India will play its meaningful role, and we will positively contribute to ensure that the balance is maintained and it will work for the global South. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi, for that exceptional, incisive presentation. And it was only apt that we end this conference with a positive approach to Brics, and you have exactly helped us to do that. And your approach certainly ties up with Dr. Sriram Chaulia's emphasis on adopting a pragmatic approach in the evolution of Brics. So when I approached the Indian Council of World Affairs for sponsorship of this seminar, we had two things in mind. One, that we need to go out of Delhi to develop a healthy discourse on Indian foreign policy. Given the unity in diversity concept which drives Indian federalism, India did not speak in one voice, whether it is foreign policy or any other policy. And therefore, there was a strong emphasis in our presentation that we need to move out of Delhi to develop healthy discourse on Indian foreign policy, and we took up Brics as a case study. The second point of our approach was that we need to provide a broad platform where the diplomats can join with academics, with the entrepreneurs, with the students to interact on major issues driving Indian foreign policy. And I think on both those counts, this seminar had been extremely successful. And I thank you for sparing your time and be with us today and to, as I said, to help us to develop a positive approach towards the Brics so far as India is concerned. Thank you very much, Mr. Ravi. Now, any seminar ends with a vote of thanks. And this is a time for moving a formal vote of thanks. Could I request Dr. Lakshmi Priya of Indian Council of World Affairs and Dr. Sharbani Guptu of Netaji Institute for Asian Studies to come up to the dais and propose the vote of thanks.
On behalf of the Indian Council of World Affairs, I thank Netaji Institute for Asian Studies, Adamas University, and H.P. Ghosh Research Center for organizing a national seminar on an important topic, Brics as a global alternative, prospects and concerns for India. Council's vision is to promote the study of Indian and international affairs so as to develop a body of informed opinion on international matters. It also arranges conferences and seminars to discuss and study Indian policy towards international affairs. Established in 1943 by a group of eminent scholars led by Sir Tej Bahadur Sapru and Dr. Hridaynath Kunzru, ICWA conducts policy research through an in-house faculty as well as external experts. It has MOUs with national and international think tanks, research institutions, and universities to promote better understanding of international issues and develop areas of mutual cooperation. As part of the outreach activities, ICWA provides grants for book projects as well as conference grants to support national and international seminars and conferences by recognized universities on themes of international relations and foreign policy. I thank the organizers for recognizing the significance of Brics as a multilateral institution and its relevance for India. The seminar has been a success with eminent scholars and practitioners speaking in various sessions, focusing on origin and evolution of the Brics Forum, its potential as an economic powerhouse, opportunities created by expansion of the body, and the strategic concerns faced by Brics as an intergovernmental grouping. The discussion has certainly enriched us while enhancing our understanding of the subject, and ICWA hopes to continue collaborating with the Netaji Institute for Asian Studies, Adamas University, and H.P. Ghosh Research Center for conferences on pertinent issues of international relations and foreign policy in future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lakshmi Priya. On behalf of Professor Shuranjan Das, Honorary Director of Netaji Institute for Asian Studies, its faculty and staff, it is my pleasant duty to express gratitude to those individuals and institutions without whose help this exciting seminar on BRICS as a global alternative, prospects and concerns for India would not have been possible. First of all, we extend our gratitude to Indian Council of World Affairs, New Delhi, especially Dr. Lakshmi Priya, for sponsoring this national seminar. We thank our co-organizers, H.P. Ghosh Research Center, Mr. Biswas, who extended a warm welcome along with Professor Shuranjan Das, the main architect of the seminar. And of course, most of all, Adamas University, the Honorable Chancellor, Professor Dr. Shomit Ray, the faculty and staff who have so generously dedicated their time, energy, and this beautiful campus for the seminar. To the panelists who have illuminated us through discussion on various aspects of this important topic both days, as well as the experts who chaired the sessions, thank you very much. Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia, former Director General, Indian Council of World Affairs, who has spoken so well and chaired also the session. Professor Dr. Shomit Ray, who also gave the presidential address. Mr. Krishnan Srinivasan, former Indian Foreign Secretary, for speaking and chairing a session. Professor Amitabh Muttu, Jawaharlal Nehru University, for chairing that important session. Professor Shanti Shri Pandit, Honorable Vice Chancellor, JNU, New Delhi. Professor Shibashish Chatterjee, Department of International Relations, Jadavpur University, for speaking and chairing 2 sessions. Professor Varun Sahni, School of International Studies, JNU, and Professor Arun Banerjee, former Professor of International Relations, Jadavpur University, for chairing that session. On the business session, Mr. N.G. Khaitan, President of Bharat Chamber of Commerce, who could not be present, but Mr. Naresh Pachisia, Senior Vice President of the Bharat Chamber of Commerce, who read out his paper. Professor Ajita Bhorai Chaudhuri, Emeritus Professor of Economics, Adamas University, thank you very much. On today's panel discussion, which was on the opportunities created by BRICS expansion, the participants, thank you very much. His Excellency Kenneth Felix Hazinski da Nobrega, Ambassador of Brazil to India, Mr. Alexei Idamkin, Honorable Consul General of Russian Federation in Kolkata and Dean of the Consular Corps, Mr. Xin Yong, Acting Consul General of the People's Republic of China. Thank you very much. And thank you, thank you, Mr. Krishnan Srinivasan, for chairing that session. Dr. Lakshmi Priya, thank you for your lecture, and Professor Deep Chakraborty, Department of Politics and International Relations, Adamas University, for chairing that session. We thank Professor Sriram Chaulia, Dean of International Relations, O.P. Jindal University, and thank you, Chair Shibashish Chatterjee, for that session. And thank you, Mr. Damu Ravi, IFS Secretary, Economic Relations, Ministry of External Affairs, for that wonderful end to this conversation. And we thank Professor Suranjan Das for chairing that session. Finally, a very big thank you to this very cooperative, patient, and enthusiastic audience, the students of Adamas University, whose presence has made this venture a success. A very big hand to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you both, Dr. Sharbani Gupta and Dr. Lakshmi Priya. One of the last protocol, we need to felicitate Dr. Sharbani Gupta. I request Professor Trideep Chakravarti, Dean, School of Liberal Art and Culture Study, to do the honors. Please, ma'am. Go there. Go from there. Go. Indrani. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am. So I know everyone is now hungry and will look forward for the food. Thank you so much, everyone. A small announcement for the faculty members, speakers, guests, and delegates. The lunch session is the same building. You have to go to the 3rd floor. And for the students, you have to go near the Panda junctions. So thank you, everyone.